All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. And this is the morning call with Tom Dabertin. Day 2. It's a 2 for a week, folks. Great to be here with you. Going to be here until 9 a.m. And I've got some really exciting announcements of some upcoming guests, including Alvin Cheeks, who's going to be here at 7 a.m., and Bill Sayer, who's also going to be here this morning. We'll talk about why they're coming on in just a minute, but let's first do traffic and weather. So let's take a look at traffic. Northwest Indiana, I-65, 80-94, the toll road all look good. Klein Avenue still has construction. I would try and avoid it if I were you. I took it yesterday, and I have to say it was slow going. Go across the line into Illinois. 294 looks great right now, going all the way past O'Hare. As far as the other roadways, the Bishop Ford and I-57 are in decent shape this morning. But when you get to the Ryan, you'll start slowing down right around 51st. So be careful there. The Skyway is fine. Lakeshore Drive is fine. Stevenson, Kennedy, and Eisenhower report no real problems this morning. But as many of you know, that'll change very quickly. So with that, let's talk weather.
Good morning, everyone. Today we're at 71 degrees with highs of 76 and lows of 67. It's going to be clouds giving way to some sun with widely separated thunderstorms, not as warm but humid. And tomorrow and Friday we'll be having highs of 85 and lows of 68. Partial sunshine with a thunderstorm, humid. And then Saturday we'll be having highs of 86 and lows of 68. Should be partly sunny and humid.
All right, there you have it, traffic and weather. Let's talk about things this morning, folks. Yesterday we started talking about weather. We're at the point in time in this nation whether we need to consider a third party. And we'll continue those conversations. We can talk about men in women's sports. If you want to talk about that as well, there's a Fever game tonight, and there's going to be, I understand, some coverage of the comments that Sophie Cunningham made and the backlash of certain people from the WNBA. That'll probably come to the top of the news cycle later this afternoon or evening. But I want to talk about our guests because this morning I have Alvin Cheeks coming in. Now, Alvin was on about a year and a half ago, and he talked about different programs and issues that he's been involved with over the years. He's the guy that really started the chess tournaments and chess leagues in Hammond, for example. He's a community organizer, but he posted a video this past weekend that was quite disturbing, and it was a shootout in Gary. And I believe there were 40-some rounds that you can hear, and people are looking out the window, and at first they're kind of cheering on the neighborhood who's fighting, and then all of a sudden a van pulls up, crashes into another car, and all hell breaks loose, and there's all these gunfire exchanges. And Alvin posted it, and his comment was, it's not the guns, it's the people using those guns. And Alvin knows a lot about guns and gun safety, and he's a security expert. So we're going to talk to Alvin right about 7 a.m. Also, we're going to have a brief visit by William Sayer, who is a Frank Sinatra imitator. He's going to be playing the Hammond Pavilion coming up, so we're going to have him on as well. And then next Wednesday, the 12th, is going to be Randy Palmatier, who was going to join me yesterday but had a conflict come up at the last minute. So he'll be on Wednesday the 12th. And on Wednesday the 19th, we're going to have Barb Regnitz. Barb is the Republican candidate for 1st District congressperson. So she's going to be on the 19th. She'll be in the studio. She'll take your calls. As I mentioned before, we put the request out to Frank Mervan as well. Frank has been dodging me and not responding. Barb Regnitz responded as soon as I sent the request out to both individuals same day, same time. She responded and said, yes, I'd like to come on. And her campaign contacted me yesterday afternoon and said that she will be on the 19th with me beginning at 7 a.m. So we've got some exciting guests coming up in the next few weeks, including today. But we've also got phone calls, so let's go to those calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning.
Yesterday was a great program, and I wish I had time to call in, if you don't mind me talking about the third-party stuff.
No, not at all.
But you guys talked about the civil rights stuff, and you guys are so right. The Civil Rights Act got passed because Johnson needed Republican votes. The House Minority Leader was here in Northwest Indiana, Charles Halleck, whose district was like Valpo, maybe the south part of Lake County, but Jasper, Newton, all the way down to Lafayette. And he did horse trading because Purdue got some jet propulsion labs for that stuff. And, he got enough Republican votes to make that happen. But you are right on the money on this third-party stuff. And here in Indiana, Greg Ballard, the former Republican mayor of Indianapolis, he's on the ballot and just raised $1 million. He raised more money than the other candidates for the Secretary of State's race. So it's going to get interesting. And his goal is not to just draw moderate Republicans out. He wants moderate Democrats run against, far left Democrats as well. And maybe in September, before you get into real heavy election season, might want to have a conversation with him, because it might be an opportunity for the middle of the state, which, let's be honest, 80% of the people are just a little right of center, a little left of center. You kind of hit everything on, the head right there.
Well, that's a great idea, and I will reach out to Greg Ballard and see if we can get him on. You're right. He's running for Secretary of State. He was not happy with, traditionally he's a Republican, but he wasn't happy with what was going on with his own party as far as the candidate for Secretary of State. And I don't know about you. I don't know enough about him, but Bo Bai running simply because he has kind of a fun-sounding name, mean that he's a good candidate. What I've heard so far about him is, well, it's Bo Bai. Well, that's great, and well, he's Birch Bai's grandson, and he's Evan Bai's son, and that's like, okay, but you wouldn't go out and hire my son as an attorney because he's my son. You wouldn't go and you don't go out and seek somebody's assistance or hire somebody just simply because of who their father or their grandfather was. So I think Ballard has a decent chance. You're right. He's raising a lot of money. And Indiana is a red state. It's a Republican state, but I think it's more of a centrist state than some people realize. I mean, Eric Holcomb was a very popular governor, and Holcomb was pretty much a centrist. Mike Pence before him, people weren't really enamored with Mike Pence. They were kind of happy when Trump took him as his vice presidential running mate to get him out of the way. And Braun, who came in as, well to the right, I noticed is starting to move more and more to the center. And maybe that's where this state is moving. I hope that's the case, because I'm just tired of all the partisan politics and the extreme views on both ends. So I hope you're right about that.
Well, looks like Bo Bai's taking the same exact game plan his dad did. His dad was a young politician. Obviously was known basically because of his father, Birch Bai, the senator who brought about Title IX, and ran for Secretary of State, won. Then 2 years later, ran for governor and won, and that's Bo's game plan. And let's be honest, he would have easily won if Diego Morales was chosen by the Republican Party. Now the Republicans, they went out and got basically Senator Jim Banks, aide to run, and I don't know how long he's lived in Indiana. Most folks don't know him. So personally, at least Mr. Ballard has a track record that you can follow in a major city. I'm not saying he's the best candidate, but we know probably all three are better than Diego Morales was.
Well, Diego Morales was again, in extremist. People within his own party had enough, and that's why I say I think this idea of a third party has some validity. It's not just the Democrats. Obviously, the Democrats have a lot of problems going on after the elections the other day, but the Republicans have some issues too, because they have these extremists like Morales, and they're trying to vet them and remove them from their party when possible. So I really think that there is a view in this country that we need to get back to center. We need to get back to the center where people can disagree, but we don't get to the point where we have the problems that we've had the last few years, where nobody wants to even talk to the other side because of their extreme views. So I'm hoping you're right. Great suggestion about Ballard. I will contact his campaign and see if we can get him on. And again, we're going to have Barb Regnitz on the 19th, and I think that's going to be a very interesting race. A number of handicapping operations out of Washington are saying that the first district could be in play this fall because Mervan has voted in certain ways that are not in sync with his district. So we'll see what Barb Regnitz has to say and has to offer.
Well, thanks, Tom. I'm just curious, when's the next time you're going to have a two-for week like this week?
My next two-for week comes up. Good question. Hold on. Let me take a look. I will be on the 27th. It'll be the 26th and 27th. It'll be a back-to-back week. So, and I've been talking to Jed about the idea of maybe doing the two for a week every other week, or every third week. So we're talking about trying to add a little bit more. It's fun because if you have 2 days, you're able to continue that conversation, especially on topics like third party, which need more than 1 day.
Well, I appreciate it. You have a nice weekend.
Thanks so much. You as well. 845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Indiana, in the aggregate, is not as conservative as a lot of people not from Indiana think. This goes back to the Mitch Daniels governorship, and I was attending a conservative libertarian conference in downtown Chicago, and I was sitting at the lunch table with a bunch of other guys, and when I told them I was from Indiana, they all said, "Oh, wonderful! You're from a conservative state like Indiana, and with a guy like Mitch Daniels as governor." I said, "Well, let me ask you this: Mitch Daniels is opposed to the death penalty. Do you think he's that conservative?" And they looked at each other and they said, "Well, gee, we didn't realize that." I said, "Yep, Indiana is a lot more centrist because the party is dominated by the Republican Party in the central part of Indiana. They call the shots, and I discovered the degree to which that existed back in the mid '90s when I was elected delegate to the Indiana's Republican Convention, and I went around talking to delegations from throughout the state. It was interesting. As soon as they identified myself as being from Northwest Indiana, I always people were always interested in talking to me. And one of the things that I discovered was that they complained, people from the corners of the state, the southeast, the southwest, the northeast, and of course the northwest, and they all complained that they didn't seem to have much standing in or they didn't seem to get much attention from the Republican parties, the Republican powers that be. And I said to them, well, actually, being from Northwest Indiana, we're worse off than you are, because the attitude toward Northwest Indiana is we're not really a part of Indiana, that we're basically a part of Chicago, kind of thing. So
well, and Walt, we kind of did that to ourselves. We did that to ourselves for many years. We liked the fact that we were viewed as more part of Chicago than the rest of the state. It's probably been, the last 30 years or so. I want to say about the time the Colts moved to Indianapolis, people up here started to identify more and more with the rest of the state. But historically, we wanted to be viewed as part of Chicago, and for economic reasons and a whole bunch of reasons. But I agree with you. I don't think we're as conservative as some people like to make us out. Indiana certainly votes Republican, but it's more centrist Republican than it is extreme Republican, and I think more and more people are identifying themselves as independents now and not as a pawn of either party. And so I think that that Indiana is misunderstood by a lot of national pundits, but that's okay. We were always the butt of jokes and viewed as the flyover state. Jonathan Winters and a host of others made us out to just be kind of a funny kind of hayseed backward state. And then now you go to Indianapolis and you go to other cities. You look at Fort Wayne and Evansville. You look at what's happening in Hammond, and people are like, "Oh, wait a minute, Indiana, yeah, they've got a lot to offer." And I really think that the view of Indiana has changed dramatically in the last 20, maybe 30 years.
Well, I think that Indiana, having worked in downtown Chicago and became intimately knowledgeable about the social political state of affairs in Chicago, I think it's wise for us to separate ourselves from Chicago. I mean, it's just the corruption, the mismanagement, the bungling, and their attitude toward Indiana and other Middle Western states. We're a bunch of hicks from the sticks, kind of thing. And I thought that that Chicago crowd was very provincial. I mean, they wanted to portray Indiana people as provincial. I thought they were the provincials, very narrow-minded and really kind of stupid. But
well, I mean,
I
guess the question is, has Indiana and Northwest Indiana changed as much as drifting maybe a little bit more to the right and to the center as Chicago has drifted basically to the left so far? I mean, I think that's part of the problem too. Oh, we have listen. I have a quick announcement here. This just came in. Please let listeners know the toll road east is basically shut down now at Portage due to a bad accident. Traffic is at a standstill. Nothing showing on the traffic map yet, but that came in from a listener. And so again, avoid the toll road if you're going eastbound from Portage. You'll want to get off on 8094. Use 8094 as the workaround if you can, and then drop back down maybe at 231. So I want to get that out there right away.
One thing that shocked me about Chicago politics was how racial and ethnic it was. I mean, I grew up in East Chicago. It was truly a diverse community, people from many different backgrounds. But when it came to a political conflict, it tended to be factions. I mean, so you had factions of the Democrats. So you had one faction was made up of whites, blacks, and Hispanics, and the other faction was made up of whites, blacks, and Hispanics. There wasn't the kind of narrow racial agenda that as soon as there was conflict, people devolved into kind of tribal things, and that's what I saw in Chicago. I mean, any kind of conflict, bam, immediately you had the blacks, you had the Hispanics, you had the whites, and so forth. Whoa! I thought to myself, I mean, you people don't seem to understand. While you fancy yourself as being so liberal, you're not that liberal at all. And in terms of just plain ordinary, commonsensical way of managing your affairs, when you get into the racial ethnic thing, resolution of any conflict becomes extremely difficult. Moving on to
absolutely,
another issue.
Walt, I want to bring up again, and I'm going to apologize, but I've got to interrupt you. The toll road actually is now closed eastbound. And so, yeah, if you're on the toll road, you want to exit at 8094. 8094 is still moving at the limit. Looks fine right now. Take 8094 around from the Portage toll plaza. Take that all the way over. I would say, to play it safe, you can get off at 49, but most likely 231, because it is totally closed now due to an accident. So that's the latest update. Go ahead.
You know, this is for the seniors out there. I'm sure I'm not portraying any kind of news, but seniors are very much a target for scamsters, whether it be via the phone calls and print material. And recently, I got this a letter about this implied that they were from Fifth Third Bank, and they were selling. It was about home warranty, and the letter
bound. Get off on 8094 and take that east, because the toll road is actually shut down right now for an accident east of the toll plaza at Portage. So we'll be right back.
Need clean energy without the junk? I'm Jim Deedlow. I used to live on burgers, football, basketball, baseball. Now I'm gluten-free and more into biking, golf, and yoga. But I still need energy. That's why I love Paradise, developed by Emily D. Edwards right here in Cherville. My favorite is Paradise Packs Strawberry with gluten-free pretzels. Find it soon at Strachan Van Til or at spreadparadise.com.
Free summer music is still rocking at Fox Point. Our Wednesday night concert series brings Trippin' Billies, the 1985, Elton Jeff and the Honky Cats, Mike and Joe, and Dick Diamond and the Dusters. Friday Night Lights brings you Gold Dust Dreams and One of These Nights on August 21st, and Mexico and El Corazon on September 4th. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094, and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for our full schedule. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
The best just got better. Tech Credit Union is proud to celebrate being recognized with Best of the Region, Best CEO, and Best Banker. To celebrate, we're offering 3 special CD offers with rates up to 4.5% APY for a limited time. Visit techcu.org or stop by your nearest Tech Credit Union branch or call 800-276-8324 to learn more. Tech Credit Union, the better option for people and communities we serve. Member NCUA. Minimum deposit required. Offer subject to change. Visit techcu.org for complete details.
IBEW Local 697 electrical contractors bring the highest standard of electrical work to Lake County homes, schools, and businesses. From everyday fixes to once-in-a-lifetime builds, we don't just get the job done, we get it done right and up to the highest safety standards. When you need electrical work, hire the professionals who power Indiana. Powering Indiana, Lake County, bringing excellence to the job, creating a brighter future for our community.
Okay, and we've got an update. Just got this in from Paul Goddard, Region News Source. That accident that we're talking about on the toll road on the eastbound lanes, basically the toll road is shut down at mile marker 25 in Porter County while Indiana State Police investigate a serious single vehicle crash involving a motorcycle. One lane is expected to reopen within the hour. So, again, if you're headed eastbound on the Indiana toll road, get off the toll road. You can get off. I would suggest that you start getting off at I-65 at this point. And the reason why is because it looks like it's starting to back up at the interchange between the toll road and 8094. Get on 8094, take it over to 49, and then get back on the toll road. If you can, I'd say even go as far as 231 just to avoid all the traffic. So there you have it. We have some problems this morning on the Indiana toll road. Probably the biggest traffic story in the Chicago area, although I will just mention that the Dan Ryan is doing its usual backup, and it's now backed up to 51st Street, and it's solid from 51st into the city. So I would also avoid the Dan Ryan. I'd take Lakeshore Drive is open this morning, and State Street is also in pretty good shape. So there you have it. Traffic as we get it, we'll give you updates. Had some interesting calls this morning, continuing the discussion about a third party. And also where Indiana really lies as far as its politics. Is Indiana as conservative as some people think it is? I don't think so. I think it's more in the center. I think the problem is that the center basically has moved. So you have these extremists on the left especially, and it's making everything else look very conservative in this nation. And Indiana is, again, probably more of a centrist state than most people think it is. And we also have the comparisons to Chicago. And I think many people have come to Northwest Indiana over the last 20 or 30 years and said, I don't want that kind of politics in my community. I don't want that kind of politics running my community or my state or my county. And so they've come over here and fled some of the problems that exist in Chicago. Again, at 7 o'clock, we've got William Sayer, who's a basically is a Frank Sinatra performer. He's going to be in for a few minutes. And we've got Alvin Cheeks. And Alvin Cheeks, no stranger to these airwaves, have had him on before, a longtime friend of mine, community organizer in Hammond. But Alvin has a real story to tell about a lot of things. But in particular, he posted a very disturbing video about a week ago about a gunfire exchange in Gary. And people were horrified and mortified by what was being depicted. And Alvin's point was, it wasn't the guns that were causing the problem. It was the people that were using those guns that was causing the problem. Just indiscriminate shooting, 40, 50 shots being recorded in this video that lasts about a minute, maybe a minute and a half. It also shows how people are running to the violence. They're running and they're cheering people on. You can hear people yell, "Oh yeah, get him, get him, get him!" And then when the gunfire starts breaking out, they're screaming, "Where's my baby? Where's my son? Where's my daughter?" And obviously they're going to protect their children. But it's just interesting to watch this video because for 1 minute they're kind of cheering on the trouble that's going on outside, and then when this van crashes into a parked car and somebody gets out and starts shooting, all of a sudden things change, and now everybody's horrified. So 845-1100 is the number to call. We'll be here again till 9 a.m. We'll have our guests. And coming up next week will be Randy Palmatier, the head of the Northwest Indiana Building Trades. And on the 19th of August, live in the studio will be Barb Regnitz. And Barb has agreed to come on. She's the candidate for the Republican Party for 1st District Congress person, and there are a lot of Washington pundits and Washington outlets that are predicting that Northwest Indiana is in play this year. Frank Mervan soundly beat his opponent last time, which was Niemeyer, but before that he had some problems with Jennifer Ruth Green, and the claim is that Barb Regnitz is very popular in Porter County. She's Porter County Commissioner, been around for a long time, so this will be an interesting race. We have some callers. Let's go to the calls. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. How you doing?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Well, Tuesday my son come up from Kokomo, brought me and my wife's fishing pole. Now that I'm completely retired, so her and I is going to go fishing. We got a lifetime resident thing. So yesterday I decided to go to Walmart to get a tackle box because for some reason somebody took my tackle box. So I went and looked and got one, But, what's disgusting is we go to the Portage Walmart, or you get away from the Illinois line, the stores are so nice and clean. I go into the Portage Hammond Walmart over here out by Cabela's, which I didn't go to Cabela's because two 18-year-old blacks from Illinois came over and did an armed robbery at Cabela's, which they got caught. They didn't get enough time to get back to Illinois, get a slap on the wrist, get away. But I go into Walmart, go to the fishing section, and then walking through there, it is just so trashy. But then when I walk out, I got my tackle box, but I walk out and I'm walking down back to my car. Half the plates are Illinois. They come over here and,
it's so, Mike, it's just as bad. It's just as bad as the one by me up in Robertsdale. The same thing. They trash the place. Yeah. I don't know why. If you're coming from Illinois, why do you have to come to Indiana and trash our stores when you shop there? Go to the Target in Munster. And the Target in Munster sometimes has the same problems where you see people and they're walking down the aisle and they knock things on the floor and they don't pick it up. They just look at it like, Somebody else can clean that up. I do notice that there are a lot of people from Illinois. Is it just bred into their culture in Illinois that you be a slob when you're in a store? I see people who actually will open up food. They haven't even bought it yet, and they're eating it. And I saw a guy one day, and I saw him literally. He's eating Oreo cookies in the Walmart up in Robertsdale, and I said to him, "Hey, sir, you haven't paid for those yet." He goes, "It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I'll pay for them. Don't worry about it." And I watched Mike. I watched from a distance, and I saw him put the bag back on the shelf.
Yeah, and then it's a shame about that. But I sent you a thing. Today National Day is the Root Beer Float Day, but there's a couple other things that people should be aware of. That's a National Day. It's Fresh Breath Day, Farmers Appreciation Day, Balloons to Heaven Day, and then there's one other thing about bend over and wiggle your toes, all sorts of interesting things. But before I switched over to you, I had the news on, and what kind of upset me about Trump is he is condemning Exxon and two oil companies for all the profits they made.
Yep.
But he did not mention nothing about British Petroleum here that's in Whiting, Indiana, that is raking money in and making us pay more gas prices and people out of work. Now, why did Trump not mention British Petroleum?
Because BP isn't as big as the ones he mentioned. That's all. That's all. I still have some belief that given the situation, there may or may not be a deal in the Strait of Hormuz. I think that Trump is going to put a concerted effort, and he should, on oil companies to drive down the price of gasoline in the next few weeks. And I think he will probably call out BP oil. So, but they're a very large company, but they're not they're not the largest by any means. If you look at Exxon, you've got Exxon Mobil, you've got Shell. Let's see, who do we have here? Exxon Mobil, Chevron, Shell is in there. BP ranks 7th. So he just probably named the biggest companies, and BP is 7th.
And yesterday on your Robertsdale, they said how much that they had taken in donations for the lockout workers, which was kind of good, I mean, I'm glad that they did it for the workers, But now I'm just curious. I'm just a little bit curious. Okay, the money they collected, all of that money going right to the 800 that are locked out, or is
it's being given to the union? The chamber has to give it to an organization. They can't hand it out to individuals, so they have to give it to an organization. It'll go. They mentioned yesterday it's going to USW 7-1.
Now, I was just wondering if 7-1 is going to give that whole amount of money to each and every 800 worker that was locked out, or are they going to take their cut out of it for making signs and banners? I'm just curious.
You know what, Mike? That I can never answer. I can't answer because I can't speak to 7-1. But it's a valid point. Look, you always wonder when donations are made, who's it going to?
Today's going to be a nice day, a little bit cooler, but my wife told me to keep the air on because it's in the 70s, but she said that the humidity was up there, so she said keep the air conditioner on.
Deb is right. There's a lot of humidity out there today. There really is. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for the call. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Tom. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it true that other union trades are crossing that picket line at BP?
Well, it's something that Randy will probably need to address when he's here. But my understanding is that there is some sort of an agreement, a national agreement, that Northwest Indiana Building Trades had no other choice but to honor. That basically says that operations like oil refineries, that construction, those in the construction trades have to continue to cross the picket line because of safety reasons. I don't totally understand why. I know, talking to at least two of the union leaders within the Northwest Indiana building trades, they're upset about it, but their point is that there is no other choice but to honor that agreement. So my understanding is that the building trades have no other choice but to cross that line.
Well, that makes sense. That's a good explanation. I just wanted to comment. Jed said last week that he thought the country was going to come together. Not going to happen, friend. This country's more divided than ever.
Well, and that's why I really think that it's time to consider a third party. Take a look at John Fetterman. Okay, when Fetterman got elected, I thought he was a slob. I didn't care too much about him, but I started to listen to his statements and his views, and he kind of reminds me of a Joe Manchin, who I thought was a great senator when he was in West Virginia. Both of them are Democrats, but they make more sense than most of their party. And frankly, they make more sense than most of the Republican Party. So I kind of like their views. I think they're certainly centrist, and I think people are just. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm tired of turning on the television and getting extremist views get all the coverage. You know, I don't really care what Elizabeth Warren has to say. She represents Massachusetts. She's a complete nut. She's a fraud. Remember when she claimed how she was part American Native Indian? She was not. She had less Native American blood in her than I do, and I know where my relatives came from. They came from Europe. She's a total fraud. So I think there's a real problem, and I think people are tired of it.
People better wake up and see what's happening in this country with these socialists being elected or winning in these primaries. It's like Chicago. You get another jughead in there like this guy, we're in real trouble.
Well, you're right about that. And here, so Janulius, the Secretary of State in Illinois, has been running all these happy little ads on TV, how he's out there day and night, and shows up in somebody's kitchen, and the kid's like, why is he in our kitchen? And he's there to fight against Trump. Well, not every single thing that Donald Trump has done is something to fight against. And so the guy's an extremist, and now he's the front runner in that race. So do we get another political hack as mayor of Chicago, or do we get somebody in that's a Rich Daley type who basically says, look, I'm going to make the city work again? Because Brandon Johnson, there's a guy, he doesn't know how to tie his own shoes.
The guy couldn't run a lemonade stand.
Oh, he'd be running it. He'd be running it, but we'd be paying $1 million to subsidize it.
And the guy's a racist.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Look, if you, as a white person, if you said the things Brendan Johnson says, basically, if you said that about other races, you'd be vilified. You'd be run out of this nation. You'd have Pocahontas Warren basically wanting to ship you out of this country. They'd strip you of your rights as a citizen in this nation if you said some of the things that Brandon Johnson says. But Brandon Johnson gets away with it because the news media is in bed with him and basically won't call him out.
Let me ask you this, Tom. Who do you see as being in the runoff in that race?
In Chicago?
Nope. Yes, nobody's going to get 51%.
I would.
There's going to be a runoff.
I'll tell you who I think. Just reading her statements so far seems to make the most sense is Kappas, Maria Kappas. When you read her statements, her campaign statements, she seems to make a lot of sense. Now, again, I don't know enough to say for sure. I kind of favor her only because she seems to make sense. But there's, 8 or 9 candidates now in it?
I think it's 12 as of yesterday.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. Well, Mendoza was pretty good as state treasurer. She's a hard ass, man.
Mendoza, Mendoza
yeah.
is now she's another one. Mendoza wouldn't be bad. Kappas wouldn't be bad. Again, I'm just going with the names that are out there. I'm actually pulling up an article from the Reader to see who they have on here. So again, there's Matthew Brewer, who is from the Chicago Housing Authority, Tony Latanya Brooks, George Cardenas, Danielle Carter Walters, Joe Holberg, Susan Mendoza, Lisa Nee, Maria Pappas, Mike Quigley. I think he's too far left. So be honest with you, maybe Pappas and I think I called her Cappas. Sorry, Pappas and who did you just say? Mendoza. I mean, look, if it was one of those two, it can't be any worse than what we have. That's for sure.
Well, we thought the same with Lori Lightfoot. Look what happened.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guy basically sleeping in a puddle right now on the south side of Chicago, in the gutter, and he may be the next mayor of Chicago for all I know. It's just scary, but we can't afford to have another loser like Johnson. That's for sure. We've had several in a row. Hey, thanks for the call. 845-1100. We've got more callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom MX.
Hey, good morning, MX. How are you?
Let's go way back on the Mr. Peabody machine.
Okay.
Now, I've got 51 years in Local 1010. And let's talk about, and I'm glad you brought it up about people crossing the picket line, the trade unions. But what I hear, the iron workers are not crossing it. Now, I'm pretty well connected, okay? In 2003, when Strayer, who was an iron worker, who was the head of the building trades, had stand up for steel at the Gary Stadium, so we all went there. So the trades were sticking up for the steel workers. I retired in 2005. 2012, I get on the bus, and we're going down to Indy to protest
and
right
I just
to
want
work.
to point out you weren't on a short bus.
Not on a short bus.
Okay.
So what happens is I asked the bus leader, I'm not going to say her name, and I told her, I says, we've always had right to work. She says, we're going down there to stick up for the building trades. So now the steel workers are returning the favor from what Strayer, who is the head of the building trades, did for us. Okay, that was under Mitch Daniels. Now Pence became governor. I get on the bus again. I was called to get on the bus again. I asked the same leader, and she says, we're down here for common construction wage. So the steel workers stood up for the building trades. Now we have a new Randy Palmentier.
And Randy's been around for some time now. I mean, Randy's been around for a while, but he did replace Jim Strayer. You're right about that.
So, I'm right about everything. Believe me, I lived it. I don't have to write a book. 51 years in the union, you see a lot. Now, all of a sudden, we have the building trades, except for the iron workers, crossing the picket line, which is wrong. I don't care what kind of agreement you got. Now, here's where things got left behind.
I think the problem.
Tom Hargrove.
Wait a minute. I think the problem is that if they violate that agreement, from what I've been told, they are
Who made the agreement?
It's a national. It's some sort
Who
of.
made the agreement?
It's a national agreement. It is above and beyond the locals.
It's not a good agreement.
Well, but my understanding
is
that
if they
violate it, they basically are paying tens of thousands of dollars in fines. That's the problem.
You don't have to sign nothing, Tom. You don't have to. Nobody's bending your arm at these arbitrations. Now, I tell you, Tom Hargrove, the greatest president of all time. We always had a no-strike clause that we negotiated for it. We just couldn't go out and strike. You'll get fired. And we had a no lockout clause. They couldn't lock us out. So BP workers, thinking they're going to get the same thing as steel workers because they should be with the OSHA chemical and atomic workers, did not get that. They were locked out, which is completely wrong. Somewhere, and I'm going to mention it, and I like Millsaps, that should have been negotiated, first of all, that you can't lock out workers. And the workers can't go on strike. You work under the same contract. I think 1 year, I can't remember, we worked 2 years under the same contract. Thanks to Hargrove.
But MX,
and thanks to Hargrove.
But MX, you understand that there are 800 employees at the BP oil refinery that are on the lockout, but there are probably 8,000 people working in that plant on any given day, and they're all contractors. And so there's part of the problem. BP doesn't employ a lot of internal people. Not that the steel mills haven't done the same thing, but it's kind of an extreme situation when it comes to BP oil. And so, again, my understanding, I've talked to a couple of building trade members who, frankly, have told me, using some pretty strong wording about their disgust about having to cross it, but they also point out that they don't have much choice. That it's enforceable and the fines are extremely large.
So if you don't cross the picket line, you could always boom out. There's no reason to cross the picket line. Nobody's going to put a bullet up to your head, Tom. I don't know where you're getting all this from.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just telling you what I've been told, and I want Randy to come on and talk about it.
Is there somebody with a broken arm that says you got to cross the picket line? Because the ironworkers ain't doing it. So this thing that you said, nobody's pushing you to cross that picket line. But what I'm trying to tell you is we stood up for the trades.
And they haven't. And you're saying that it's time for them to stand up for the people at BP. And I get the message. And I agree with you. But I'm just telling you what I've been told. Okay.
Yes, and what you've been told, there's nobody with a gun pointed to your head like you're saying it, that you got to cross that picket line. You could always boom out. So from the last meeting, from the people I know, the ironworkers ain't crossing it. So
and I'm just going to...
Something has to be done. And here's another thing, too, I don't like. At least you got gonads. Mervyn should come on here and talk about the trades crossing the picket line. You did.
Yep.
I got to commend you for that. You're bringing it out, and don't shoot the messenger here.
Well, I just don't want a cartoon made of myself. That's what it is. With
no,
you.
I'm not going to give you no cartoon.
All right, I'm agreeing with
you. But if I've stayed quiet long enough, and I've watched the situation, and at least you bring it out, and that's where I sit on this. There was a lot of things that slipped through. Millsap's not getting a no strike clause and a no walk. You can't throw people out. No lockout clause. We will negotiate under this contract.
Look,
a lot of things slip through.
I think that again, first and foremost, the people that are in the lockout, I don't want to say strike, but the people that are affected by the lockout at BP, it's time for them to return. This has gone on way too long. BP is a bit of a pariah company. They do very, very little for the community. Very little. All right. The fact that Whiting and Hammond, or the Whiting Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce and the city of Hammond gave back those donations for those festivals, that is minuscule compared to what their predecessor, Amoco or Standard Oil, used to do around here. They do very, very little. They like to make it sound like they're so involved in the community. They're not. When they serve on committees, when they're involved in organizations like the Chamber, they show up one time and then basically tell you they're never going to show again. I'm not a fan of BP Oil, and I love to see this lockout end, and I'm with you on it. I think that, again, Randy has offered to come on. He's going to explain it, and I think we owe Randy the opportunity for him to come on and explain why they have to cross that picket line right now. But as far as Frank Mervan, Frank Mervan is welcome to come on this show. He's been invited. I'm not going to send him anymore. Well,
Frank's not mentioning it like you did.
Well,
now
I'm not going to mention. I'm not going to offer for Frank to come on this radio program any longer. And the reason why is because I want to be fair. I sent him the same request that I sent to Barb Regnitz on the same day. And not only did I send it to both, but I also sent it to Frank's personal cell phone, and no reply. And the one person called in and said that they actually asked him at a rally down in or a forum down in Crown Point, and he said Tom who. So he knows who I am. There's no question he doesn't know who I am. He wants to play those games, let him play them.
Well, he's playing them real good, but he should be talking like you are about crossing the picket line, the trades. Now, we went down there for Mitch Daniels' right to work, and it had my sandwich switchboard sign.
Yep.
I almost got arrested. They told me to take it down. And I told the Indiana State Trooper, Pence was a really bad guy, believe me.
He was.
And I said, well, they okayed my sign down there. And they said, take it off. So
Pence was not a good governor. Pence was not a good governor. Pence was Pence was a difficult guy, not a very good governor, not well received. In fact, I'll tell you a story about Mike Pence, MX. His chief of staff tried to force him into the Pierogi Fest parade years ago. And the chief of staff called me and said, well, I have great news. Governor Pence wants to be in your parade. And I said, oh, wonderful. He wants to push a lawnmower or whatever. No, he's the governor. He's going to ride and wave from the convertible. And I said, no, we don't do that. We don't allow that. If politicians want to be in the parade, and I will give him credit. Frank Mervan has pushed a lawnmower plenty of times. Randy Niemeyer has pushed a lawnmower. Adrian Santos has pushed a lawnmower. I mean, that's how if you want to be in that parade, that's what you do. And Pence's chief of staff says, no, you don't understand. He's the governor, and he can do whatever he wants. And I said, no, you don't understand. How about I reach out to my friends in the news media, and we'll see who wins? And he goes, fine, we will. And I called one of the Chicago television stations, won't say which one, called the news director, and she took care of it. She called their counterpart in Indianapolis, who sent a reporter over to his office asking why he was trying to impose himself on my parade. And the chief of staff called me and said, oh, we made a mistake. We didn't know which parade we were talking about. Yeah, right. So I never cared for Mike Pence.
Last thing.
Yes.
One last thing. When they go into negotiations, when they go back, they have to get a no lockout clause and a no strike clause. So this never happens again. I don't want to hear about all the raises you got. I'm telling you right now.
I agree with you. Hey,
and I hope you remember what I'm telling you from a 51-year union worker.
Yes.
Or I wouldn't have made it. And Tom Hargrove, again, is the greatest president of the United States Local 1010. Just if I'm not around and you're in there negotiating, Tom, for these BP workers, you get a no lockout clause for MX, will you?
I will do that. I will do that, and I also remember that you're older than me. But you still owe me breakfast.
And never forget that.
I won't. You and my sister
love
both.
Love you, man. Love you. I got to go. I got a real life.
Oh, yeah. You're going to go to breakfast. Go on. All right. Take care, MX. 845-1100 is the number to call. Do we want to take a quick break? I think we're going to take a quick break, folks. And when we come back, I think William Sayer is here. So we'll have William Sayer. Is that correct? And then we'll have Alvin Cheeks. So keep it tuned right here. You're listening to the Morning Call on WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the TuneIn app, and YouTube Live. We'll be right back.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strag & Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
Come to Fox Point Saturday, August 8th for an unforgettable night of classic soul and funk. Solid Ground Band opens for Shining Star, a stunning tribute to the magical music of Earth, Wind, and Fire. This special August 8th concert is free. Bring your appetite and enjoy our bar and delicious local food. Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is just minutes from I-8094 and parking is free. Visit foxpoint.org for details. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
From the gas in your car to the heat in your home and the roads that you drive on, our work powers daily life. We are USW Local 71, the proud men and women of the Whiting Refinery. We're not just refinery workers. We're your friends and neighbors, raising our families here, shopping in the same stores, and cheering in the same stands. USW Local 71, powering the region because we are the region.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad. Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware of where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
All right, and we're back, and just a quick update. Eastbound lanes on the toll road continue to be shut down. Both Region News Source and the Times are reporting on it. The expectation is that one lane is supposed to open within the hour. I just checked one of the Chicago sites, and they also show it still shut down. So let me give some very strong suggestion this morning that you go over to 8094 and work around this. 8094 is flowing pretty well right now. Get off at I-65 rather than the interchange with the toll road. Get off at I-65, get on 8094, take it eastbound, get back on at 49, and you're going to avoid that traffic type because it's going nowhere, folks. 845-1100, we've got callers. I'm going to take a caller. Then we're going to talk to William Sayer, who is with us this morning, and then we've got Alvin Cheeks coming in. So, good morning. You're on the air.
Tom, two things. Number one, is it your understanding Mervan's coming on with Weezer?
Well, my understanding is that Barbara Egnitz is coming on August 19th, beginning at 7 a.m. She has agreed to come in the studio, sit here, and take phone calls from you and everybody else.
Tom, number two, you certainly don't lack confidence, do you?
I'm sorry?
You certainly don't lack confidence in yourself, do you?
I'm fairly confident. Yeah, I'm confident. Do I know everything? Absolutely not. And I learned an awful lot from callers and from people that I run into day in and day out. But I'm confident enough. Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned all your big shot friends, people in the news you know and talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day you gave your account of 100 negotiations.
Yes.
But you want nothing to do with 7-1. And helping those workers and their families.
No, here's what I said, is that I usually, over the years, I've represented employers, and I would want nothing to do with representing BP. If I could help the workers of 7-1, I'd be glad to. I would have no problem. My point was that historically, I've represented employers, and I would want nothing to do with representing BP. That's the point. So I'm glad that you brought it up, because maybe I didn't speak that clearly.
It wasn't that clear. So if that's what we can do to help all those families, 20-something hundred you mentioned,
right?
Why don't you start making phone calls today and tell the BP workers that you'd be willing to negotiate? Tom, if you could settle that, you want to talk about leaving a legacy, that would be a legacy.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I challenge you to make those phone calls.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem that exists right now, and that is that you've got an unwilling side, which is BP Oil, okay? They talk a good game. They keep on saying, well, we're willing to come back to the table, but they want to come back to the table with everything their way. So again, my own belief is that we need the bully pulpit approach right now with BP, because BP really doesn't care about what goes on in the United States. They're headquartered in London, but there is one person that they'll take note of, and that's Donald Trump. And I think Donald Trump needs to come out very strongly, and Governor Braun has a very strong relationship with Trump, and I would hope that Braun gets on the phone and reaches out to President Trump, and Trump actually comes out and says it's time to settle that strike. That lockout is not helping with gas prices, and Trump is very concerned about gas prices. Then get on the news, get on the airwaves and take BP to task. And if Donald Trump does that, trust me, I think BP would be back at the table in a heartbeat. I would have no problem, though, sitting and helping out the folks from 7-1, and I'll reach out to some people that I know there and let them know that. All right? Hey, thanks so much.
Take the bull by the horn, Tom.
Thanks so much for the call. I appreciate it. 845-1100, we've got a guest in the studio, so hold off on the phone calls for just a few minutes. By the way, you're listening to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM in Hammond, Indiana. I'm about a minute late on that. But we have William Sayre here. And, William, you are you're a performer.
Yes, I am a performer, entertainer. Yes, that is correct.
And specifically, you are a performer doing what?
Specifically right now, I am being flown out to Hoboken, New Jersey. I'm one of 10 people from around the country that got an invitation to perform in the Frank Sinatra My Way Sing-Off that is at the Sinatra Park in Hoboken, New Jersey, Sinatra's hometown.
So, I was just going to ask why the connection to Hoboken, but he was born in Hoboken, New Jersey. Nice. And one of the things that I noticed when you walked in is that you're more of the frame of Frank Sinatra than a lot of imitators. Okay?
Well, that is the one thing I always say. I'm not an imitator, because I will do Bobby Darin, I will do Dean Martin. I happen to be, Sinatra's more of my forte, though.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who do Sinatra basically are usually kind of bigger, bulkier guys, and Sinatra was not a big guy. I mean, he was a relatively small guy.
Yeah, no, I get lucky because my grandfather worked at a men's clothing store, so I kind of get the nice little suits. But yeah, I guess I have to thank my parents for the genetics of being my size.
Yeah, I mean, but you look at Sinatra, and Sinatra, of course, had an amazing career. Started in the 1940s.
Yep.
And when did he pass away? Probably like in the 1990s, somewhere around there. I mean, had a phenomenal voice, had a great career, some great hits, no doubt about it. He was also an actor, and kind of an A-lister without doubt in Hollywood. I mean,
the A-list of the A-list at the time.
Yes, he was kind of
the A-list. He was the man.
Yeah, he was, and
chairman of the board.
And it's also interesting because we talk politics a lot on these airwaves, but Sinatra had some interesting political views as well, because he was a friend of Ronald Reagan, and he was also a huge supporter and proponent of John F. Kennedy. So he kind of was on.
He was versatile.
Both ends. He was very versatile.
Which
very
is how
versatile.
I like to look at myself.
So, of all the Sinatra songs, which one would be your favorite?
Luck Be a Lady.
Luck Be a Lady.
I love that song. Although there are a lot of them, currently right now, one I'm kind of dabbling in, I'm always trying to learn new ones, is I've Got You Under My Skin. That's a great one.
I think My Way.
Ironically,
My Way would be my song, by the way. A shout out to the last caller. My Way would be my song. So My Way, My Kind of Town.
Yeah, you want to know the ironic thing about My Way?
Sure.
So the 10 of us have to go out there, and we can't sing New York, New York. That's off the books because they're having all 10 of us sing this at the end. But the committee from Hoboken, the Historical Museum, had to pick each of us to sing a song. And you know what song they gave me?
What song?
My Way.
Oh,
so
great.
I was blown away because yes, that is to sing My Way in Sinatra Park in Hoboken, New Jersey, on the Hudson River overlooking the New York skyline. I mean, as a Sinatra singer, it doesn't get any better than that.
I agree with you. I think that would probably help even a guy like me who can't perform to perform because of the setting. But it's a great song. It really is. And
it's a standard. It's an anthem.
And yeah, you look at the words and you think about the words and the meaning, and again, that would be my song. So how did you get into performing? How did you decide? Well, I'm going to enter a Sinatra contest, for example.
Well, years ago, I used to like to do acting, and I actually moved out to Hollywood back in '99, and I was out there for 3 years, and life happens, and I came back. But then when I was back, they had this contest called the Region Idol out in Crown Point, and I got into it. Phil and Joey Strubig and Spiro, they started it, and it's kind of funny that, and then I just kind of dabbled into it with the acting. I kind of just kind of fell into it, and I started dabbling around seeing what I could sing, and I kind of gravitated towards Sinatra because my voice kind of just happened to be that way. And I fell more and more in love with it. I mean, yeah, how can you not fall in love with the German on the board? He's got one of the most amazing voices.
And again, you're right. I mean, he has an amazing voice. You said that you do some other genre, some other music. Who else did you say?
Bobby Darin.
Bobby Darin.
One of my go-tos is Mac the Knife.
Bobby Darin, Mac the Knife. A Little Song of Freedom was one of his last songs, and it's a very good song as well. And of course, help me out. No. Help me out. Bobby Darin and the song about the sea.
Somewhere Beyond.
Yes, Beyond the Sea.
Beyond the Sea.
Right. Another great song.
That's
another great song.
song.
And then you said you do
Dean Martin.
Dean Martin. So where do you perform?
You belong
locally?
to me. You belong to me is the one.
Where do you perform locally?
Well, I've just kind of started getting more back into it. Life happens. I was taking care of my father. I was a caregiver, and then I kind of got back into it. And after he passed away in 2022, I kind of, I hadn't done it in a while. I used to do it, and then I kind of started getting back into it. And I did some competitions. I finished second in the Northwestern Indiana Superstar in 2022. I was just in this year's Region Idol. Had a bad night. My voice dried up, and I had to do Marvin Gaye for Motown, and that was a disaster. Which, I think it was a good lesson right before this, because it's just to kind of remind you that at any moment you can fall, but you learn, you move forward. That's about getting up. That's what my way is about,
But again, you give people the information about the contest that you're in. It's a national contest, Hoboken, New Jersey. When it is. Is there a way people can watch live through streaming? Tell people about all that.
Yes, they can on YouTube. They can live it. You just search the Hoboken Historical Museum YouTube channel. That's all you have to put in. From there, you'll see the link. You'll click on that, and then it'll pop up, and then you'll see the channel, and right in the middle, it'll say live. And then you click on that, and right there the link is. They're supposed to give me the link, but I haven't received the link yet. And the contest will be August 13th, 5:30 to 7:30 our local time.
And also, there's some local viewing parties. We've got it up on the screen right now, so you can see it at a couple of local locations as well. Let's see, L Squared and Tony's Bar, right?
Yep, L Squared in Cherville, right there on 41 and 77th, basically. And then Tony's Bar in Dyer, Indiana, which is basically at the crossroads of Sheffield and Hart Street, right by the BP.
Well, you can take Jed Dilo as your sidekick, maybe,
of course.
And he can serve as your sidekick in the contest.
His Gracer's hospitality for inviting me on here today. Thank you.
All right,
and a little thumbs up. Thank you. I like that.
All right,
I'm just trying to have fun with this.
Well, absolutely, William. Thank you so much for being here, and it's a pleasure. And good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
845-1100. And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and take those calls as Alvin's coming in and William's going out. How about that? Because I know people have been waiting on hold, so we'll do that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, William. 845-1100, and we will take some callers. Good morning. You're on the air.
How you doing, Tom?
Good. How are you?
All right. You're talking about BP. I've been out of there about 15 years now. Thing people might not understand about the way BP operates, they contract out everything. If if they could, that place would be 100% contractors. I was in maintenance, and even when I was there over 15 years ago, they were doing everything they could to actually eliminate as many jobs as they could.
Yeah,
They basically cut it down to the bone. Whatever they can legally get away with contracting out, they'll do.
Yeah, you're right. They're contracting out everything, and it's kind of sad because they avoid all the legacy costs of paying for benefits and pensions and all that kind of stuff, contributions to 401k. They avoid all that by contracting out everything out there. And the vast majority of people working in that plant are not BP employees. You're absolutely right.
Well, yeah, I've actually had supervisors tell me right to my face that they love to contract out my job and everybody else's job because it's easier for them.
Yeah, well, they wouldn't want their position contracted out, though. And there are some companies. But there's some companies that contract out supervision and management now, and I maybe that's a negotiating point at the table. You know what? You guys want to contract out all the workers? Well, maybe you ought to contract out some of your supervision and management because there's companies that do that now.
Well, yeah. Matter of fact, though, they're top heavy with management. I would say at the time they probably, for every guy working, they probably got 2 or 3 of them sitting around in meetings all day long. I actually had a supervisor tell me one time when we complained that we couldn't get hold of anybody when we needed them. They said, "Yeah, we're in a meeting, but we're going to have a meeting about that."
Yeah. Well, very good. Hey, we're going to move on, Lee. We got some callers, and then Alvin's here, so we're going to move on. Thanks so much. Take another call, and then we'll go to Alvin. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. Hey, I just wanted to let you know, and when Alvin Cheeks come in, you tell him safety.
Well, hold on.
Good morning,
Steve. Hold on. Let me get Alvin set up. Alvin, can you hear Steve?
Morning, Alvin.
Hold
you hear
on.
me yet?
We're trying to get him set up right now. So give him a second.
Okay, now I can't hear you.
Okay. Is his headset turned on now? Give us 1 second. And okay, you should be able to hear. Alvin, can you hear Steve Stanek? It's Safety Steve.
Steve.
Hello. Can you hear me now?
No, I can't.
You can't hear him still?
It's nothing coming through the earpiece.
Let me see this. Let's see this. All right. Go ahead, Steve, and we'll figure out what's going on. Go ahead. Ask the question, and I'll read it.
Just want to let you know, Tom, that I was able to visit with Frank Sinatra in Palm Springs, California. And when I say visit with him, I was at his grave site. And oddly enough, he has the most regular grave site that you would see in any local cemetery. On one side of him, his best friend and his bodyguard is buried right next to him, and on the other side is his wife. And then not too far from that, maybe about 500 yards, is where Sonny Bono was buried.
Was
it's
Steve,
a small cemetery.
Steve, you had a comment though for Alvin.
Oh, I certainly did. I just wanted to say good morning to Alvin, and I wanted to say that Alvin's father was a wonderful, wonderful gentleman. He did a great job raising.
So it's Steve Stanek.
Alvin
Steve
Jr.
Stanek, and he said to say good morning to you. And
good morning.
He said that you had a wonderful father who did a great job raising you.
Thank you. Union guy.
And I knew Alvin's father from the Civic Center, and he was a super, super guy. And you know what? He showed up every morning, even with his disability. He was there, and he always mustered up a smile. And I know Alvin appreciated him. And I just wanted to call and tell Alvin that I never forgot his father, and I never forgot the fun things that Alvin Jr. would do as well.
Gotcha. Hey, Steve, thank you so much. We're going to take a quick break. Folks, we're just going to see exactly what we need to do to get Alvin hooked in here. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to The Morning Call with Tom Dabertin on WJLB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. When we come back, hopefully Alvin will be able to hear your calls and take your calls because we've got plenty to talk about with him. So we'll be right back.
I'm Pastor Eric Boone, pastor of the Tree of Life Church here in the great city of Gary, Indiana. the Notre Dame Credit Union. Go beyond and above to make sure that we are in position to make that greater impact. Listen, this credit union is one of a kind, and I'm looking forward to the future because I know that we will continue to do greater things together, and I'm forever grateful for a credit union like this.
Visit NotreDameFCU.com.
Hey Region, I'm T, and I grew up in East Chicago, went to college in Gary, worked out of Munster, and raised my family in Crown Point. I'm Region to the core. I created Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region. Added to chicken, fish, pizza, eggs, and more for the perfect blend of heat and flavor. Visit RegionHotSauce.com for a complete list of locations or to order direct. Region Hot Sauce, the flavor of the region.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad. Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Have you ever considered becoming an iron worker? Local 395 is now accepting applications for their apprenticeship program. Go to ironworkers395.com. Look under the training section, click on apprenticeship, and scroll down to the application. You must be 18 years old, have a high school diploma or GED, and you must be physically able to perform the work of the trade. Find out more by calling the apprenticeship school in Lake Station at 219-962-7675 or visit ironworkers395.com.
All right, folks, we're back. And Steve Stanek, please call back. We've got Alvin hooked up now so he can hear your call. So if you want to call back, Steve, feel free to do so. 845-1100 is the number to call. Just a quick update on traffic. I'm looking at one of the Chicago news media reports, and they're showing that the cameras are showing now that traffic is beginning to move on the toll road eastbound again. I would still consider taking 80-94 around it. Get off at I-65, go on to 80-94, take 80-94 over to 49, drop back to the toll road. You'll avoid a great big headache. 845-1100, but it's great to have Alvin Cheeks in the house. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, my friend. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. And Alvin, you've been on before. We talked about the chess tournaments and the chess league that you started up. But I want to get right to it. You know a lot about guns. You know a lot about guns. I got
40 years worth of experience.
40 years worth of experience. And there was a disturbing video, happened about a week ago maybe?
It's been 2
weeks. 2 weeks now. But it was basically in Gary, and these people are looking out the window, and there's some sort of a fight going on. It doesn't really matter. I don't know the details. Maybe you do. But there's a fight going on, and the next thing you know, instead of it being an argument, people are screaming and hollering at each other, and all of a sudden there is just a litany of gunfire, probably 40, 50 shots going off, people firing things, and they're all screaming about their safety and their lives. And I think it was a Sunday morning you posted and you said the guns aren't the problem, it's the people that are the problem. And I just was so taken by your comments. I reached out to you and said, hey, why don't you come on and explain? So, again, there's a lot of people that want to blame guns for all the violence that exists, whether it's Gary or anywhere else. It could be Chicago. It could be anywhere in this nation. There's a deluge of violence as it relates to guns, but the guns aren't the problem. Explain that.
Right. First of all, I want to thank you personally for always inviting me, always opening up opportunities to me. The reason why I say guns are not the problem, because a gun cannot react unless somebody pulls the trigger. So if I'm having an argument or a discussion with you, and I pull out a gun and shoot you or somebody, then how's the gun the problem? The person is the problem. Most crimes that happen doesn't happen with legal gun owners. They happen with people who don't have a license, who have felonies on their record, and they commit a crime. But they always go back to the gun owner, saying, oh, we should put more restrictions. Oh, you shouldn't be able to do this. You shouldn't be. Now churches have restriction zones. Crime happen in places where it's restricted. So how can we, as people, be safe if we can't protect ourselves? That was the most disturbing video that I've ever seen in this part of the country. That wasn't far from where I'm at. I'm usually in Gary most days. The people from Gary are very genuine. Like you said,
They're good people. They're good people.
It's not where you come from. It's the idiots that do things. You endanger kids. It was kids out there. You endanger people. That's not cool. So my thinking is, how can you put more restrictions on us when if you do the data, the people that are going to jail are not people who legally bought that gun. The people that are going to jail are people that illegally bought a gun and illegally done an action. So me, as a person who has a legal gun and a gun permit and followed the rules, now I get more rules.
Well, look, you and I known each other for years. We're friends,
right?
But we've argued about lots of things. Okay?
Oh, without a doubt, and I love that about you.
We have argued about everything, and probably including the weather. But here you are. You carry a gun, all right? You have never once. You will stand there and you'll say, Tom, you're wrong, and here's why. And you'll be animated with your hands, but you have never acted threatening toward me. And in fact, we stood there, and I can remember a couple of times coming out of the city council chambers in Hammond where we'll walk out, we'll pat each other on the back and say, hey, it's good seeing you, good arguing with you.
Yeah, and forget about the argument.
We forget about the argument. We move on with our lives. Okay, what is it? Why do people have to take these arguments to the point that they feel they have to pull a gun out on somebody?
Well, my thought is, a lot of people of color are not going to like this, but a lot of people take the coward way out. What I mean by this, I grew up.
Yeah, me too.
You fight.
Yeah.
I could think of plenty times I could have shot somebody. Just a couple days ago, I had a guy trying to rob a place. Pulled out a gun, and I talked to him, and I say, hey, this is not where you're going to be able to use that gun. You're going to end up losing your life. And I said, man, what's wrong? Nobody ever asked them what's wrong. Nobody ever asked them, why do you have that gun with a switch on it and that's illegal? Why not learn how to use it properly? Why not go through the right steps? To get mine, we had to go to the chief of police in the old days. You used to have to write a letter before you could get a gun permit. And you used to have to meet with the chief of police. They no longer do that. My mother gave me my first gun. And she's like, look, don't be pointing this at nothing you don't want to destroy. They don't learn that. I took my son out and made him shoot a pig. When he saw the blood, he started crying. Never wanted to touch a gun again until he became a Marine. We have to make guns mainstream in Black America. I say that all the time. People are like, what do you mean by that? Every time they talk about a gun and they see a minority, they think you're a criminal. I've had people like, oh, what you getting ready to do? You getting ready to hurt somebody? No. I have a right to defend myself against tyranny.
But you understand, here's the difference. You understand, as you said, the impact of the gun. You understand the impact and the consequences of pulling that trigger. And there's too many people, and look, you mentioned Black Americans, but there's plenty of white Americans too who are pulling triggers, and they have no clue what they're doing, and they don't understand the consequences. I don't know all the details of that In-N-Out Burger incident that happened.
I've watched that about 10 times.
But thank God for the guy that was there legally carrying, because if it wasn't for him, it could have gotten a whole lot worse, okay? And I've always said to myself, in fact, I've seen you a few times, and we'll see each other. Hey, Tom. Hey, Alvin. How you doing? Good, good. We'll walk past each other. And I'm thinking to myself, I feel pretty safe today because if some idiot does something, I know Alvin's there and you know how to handle it. But
and it's been happened over the years in Hammond. You remember I was there when I got shot and a business owner got killed.
Yeah.
That could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and the thing is, though, is what is impressive about you, Alvin, is your approach isn't to right away show the person you got a gun. Okay,
no,
that's the last thing that you're going to do. You basically, I've heard you, I've seen you, I know about what you'll do. You'll stand there, you'll reason with the person, say, hey, man, what are you doing this for? What are you doing this? You're gonna ruin your life. You counsel them, you talk to them. Okay,
right.
But that's lost in the American public, and we have a caller, so let's go to the call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Tom. I obviously, Elvin got all checked in. It's good to hear his voice. Elvin, it's a pleasure to hear your voice. Number one is I used to work with your father at the Civic Center, and what a wonderful man. And I tell you what, I wanted you to know that I did never forget him because he showed up every day. He always mustered up a smile. We worked with him to try to rehabilitate him, just to keep him going.
No, you did rehabilitate my father. No, I know I got these cameras on, but I got to be honest. When my father first went to the Civic Center, we carried my father in, and you laughed and you said, hey, man, I got it. My father could not walk, could not move his hands, but my father would go. And he started out moving one finger, and you were like, oh, we won. And I used to look at you like you was crazy. Like, what do you mean we won? So I thank you from the bottom of my heart, man, that my father got his life back. And you've done that with other people that you go from a finger to moving a toe to when my father left this earth, he could walk again. He couldn't walk far, but my father could stand up and he like, oh, I could punch you now. And a lot of people wouldn't understand that, but my father was in a wheelchair. And you made it where my father could be a man again. And I love you for that, man. When I went to you, I was in tears. I was like, can you make it where he could move something? You're like, no, I'm going to make it where he could walk. And I looked at you like you were crazy. And I didn't say nothing, but I'm like, man, this dude got to be crazy. Walk again. The doctor said that he'll never talk, none of that. You got my father back talking, my father back walking. And I appreciate that, man, from the bottom of my heart.
Well,
and you just done so much, man.
But it's great to have both of you on right now because, of course, Steve, you've spent your life working. You were a firefighter. You're out working at hospitals now in Arizona, and dedicated yourself to working with people in times of need. Alvin has dedicated himself of working in communities basically who are in need in kind of different ways, whether it's working with children or working to preserve the peace, so to speak. And I mean, Steve, what's the answer to all this gun violence? I mean, you have it out in Arizona; it's everywhere.
Well, see, and I'm glad you brought that up, Tom, because in Arizona we have a open law. You can walk in Arizona with a piece right on your side. So a lot of times people kind of think a little bit different before they're going to start doing something crazy because they know that we have an open carry here. And I think that problem that In-N-Out Burger, again, from what I've read, is this was somebody from outside of wherever he was at, and how he got a high-powered rifle is beyond me. But the great thing was the fact that somebody was carrying and somebody was able to be a good citizen and step up. And you know what? To protect yourself, to protect his fellow brotherhood of the human beings. And I think that that's the proper thing. And I think Alvin's right on when he says you can carry a gun, you have to follow the right laws. And again, because you're carrying it to protect yourself, you're carrying to protect your family. And we live in a society now that, you know what, the police can't be everywhere. And I believe that the more that people can, the proper people that can carry a weapon, the safer you'll be. And I feel so safe in Arizona with that fact because everywhere you go, somebody has a gun on their side. And I mean, does that stop violence? No, but I tell you what, you need to protect yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I got one other story with him. I remember one day, I lived 4 doors from the fire station, right? So I woke up, I couldn't breathe. Literally couldn't breathe. Didn't know why I couldn't breathe. So I just got outside. So I seen the fireman down at the fire station just outside. So I go down there and I'm like pointing at my throat and he's looking at me. I'm like, can't talk. I'm not knowing at that time I'm having an asthma attack. So he also had saved my life before. And I've seen him, we had a bedroom fire where he's came in and helped me. So over the years, this gentleman has inspired me.
But see, there's a difference. And there's, I mean, here you got two guys now a couple thousand miles apart, but you're talking about, you're complimenting each other. You're talking about how you've been able to help each other. You're talking about all the right things that don't exist in today's society.
No,
okay?
it don't.
We have people who, you know, if you cut me off at a stoplight, does that really cause me to want to ruin my life to shoot you? I mean, but that's what happens.
And that's so bad that people want to hurt somebody because they have a different opinion. Me and you, we used to get in the shouting matches. We used to literally go at it. When the meeting was over, we used to laugh, oh, you got me on that point, you got me on that. Hey, you want something to eat?
Yeah, we would go at it, and we're two big guys. I mean, we're not exactly, neither of us shy away from an argument, but we never once talked about, like, oh, you know, I want to kill you or made any kind of threats. It's like you said, we'd be like, yeah, you got me really good on that one. That was a good point of yours. You know, you landed a good one on me, and that's how we took it. But what do you do with today's society, Alvin? Because, again, you watch that video, and I don't care where it occurred. I mean, it occurred in Gary, but it's so disturbing because the original video is, I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, it's somebody who's videotaping a fight out on the street. There's an argument.
Right.
It becomes a fight.
And the person lost the fight.
And then they start shooting each other.
Right, and they start shooting. Not to mind all the kids, not to mind all of that.
And 40, 50 shots, I mean, you got people today, they have these semi-automatic weapons in their hands, and they don't really know what it is they're doing. They haven't got a clue.
I used to go to Deb's on Kennedy, right? I used to work at Henry Walker's office. Next door was a gun range. My mother said, you go in there and you learn. And the first thing I learned was you don't use your gun to make a point, a defensatory tool. So if I want to win an argument and we arguing, me pulling out my gun, that's the coward's way out. Because now I'm forcing you to listen to me. I've had plenty of guns pointed at me. And I tell people, what about your family? What about my family? I've lost people to gun violence. My brother was killed. Did I want to go out and hurt them? Yes. Did I sit there and look at them and be like, I could take the easy way out? No, you don't do that. You think about, he got a family. He got people that count on them. And the other thing is that was a weapon that had a switch on it. I could hear it. I wasn't there before somebody said I was there. I wasn't there. But you could tell by the rapid of gunfire. From what people tell me, you can take a computer and a printer and make a switch. You can take a computer and I forget what they call it, but you can make all this.
3D printer.
3D printer. And you can make all this stuff. I have to go to the gun store. I have to fill out paperwork. They have to make a phone call and approve me. So this guy that made his stuff over the computer and he does stuff, they couple me with him. How did I get a background check? He didn't get one. So how am I the same as him? We got a tomato sitting over there. So I don't like tomatoes. You like tomatoes, or somebody like tomatoes. That don't make them a bad person. So to say I'm like that tomato because I have a tomato sitting by me, that's unfair.
good point. Hey, Steve, thanks so much for the call. 845-1100. We got another caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Man, I'll tell you what. I've been a legal gun owner since I became of age to do so legally. And you know what the best thing I've ever did?
Go ahead.
About 5 years ago, I took my wife and I bought her a package of about a handful of gun lessons from a professional gun instructor at a local establishment. And I got my wife properly trained to use a firearm. And just leaving for work in the morning in the pitch black dark, it's just a little bit better of a feeling knowing that my wife's in the house, and not only in the house, but she did win and got her state license, a lifetime license, the whole 9 yards, that she's able to properly use a firearm. And I think a lot of people should maybe consider show your wives, go get them a lesson and teach them how to protect themselves.
What do you say, Alvin?
I say that's a good idea. Now, the part that I don't like, if I lived in Illinois, they have to have a FOI card. They have to take so many lessons. In Indiana, you just send off for your gun license. I believe that we should train, because what happens is that you have a cognitive part of your brain that just reacts to things. Like you were doing the computer, you do it naturally. If you practice with a gun, you'll do it naturally. But when you're in the dead of sleep and you pick up a gun, if you've never trained with that gun, you're probably going to hurt yourself. Why not?
Absolutely.
Why not make it where I'm not a component of having to take training to get a gun like they're doing now, but I am a component of training. I used to think it was a joke when Deb used to say, just pull the trigger, practice. She'd say, practice when somebody has a gun on you, how to talk them out of the scenario. I'm not afraid to shoot somebody. I'll tell anybody. But I've learned that person has something wrong. Now, if it's an active shooter, you don't get many chances to talk to the person. But if you get a chance and you talk to one of those people that are trying to rob people or trying to do something, they have something that they're missing. You shouldn't be breaking into somebody's house. You shouldn't be violating women and old people. But people now, they don't think that person has a family. They don't think that person might be going to get their medicine, might be, like when my father was sick, I used to be up early morning. So you go into your car early morning and somebody carjacks you. How do they know what they're using that car for? How you know that it's a person that lived on my block that used to deliver hearts and kidneys and stuff. How you know you haven't stole a car that has something that's going to save somebody else's life?
Well, like the carjacker the other day, how do you know that you're not going to carjack a car with a 4-year-old in the back seat?
Right. But if we don't train, I feel that we all are missing out. People look at me
Alvin,
crazy.
I think you hit it.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, but Alvin, I'll just say this and I'll let you go. But I think you hit it right on the head. Like you said, anybody in Indiana can go buy a gun. Right. Using it properly is a whole different story. And like you said, you're probably more got a better chance of hurting yourself without a little bit of know-how. And
right.
Like I said, a little bit of training, it goes a long way. So,
hey, thanks for the call. Well,
thank you, sir.
I want to go back to this video because on top of everything else, so look, you do personal security, okay? Right. I've seen some of your weapons. Okay, you got all kinds of stuff.
All kinds of
stuff. You really do. But for the average person, they don't need a semi-automatic weapon. They don't need an automatic rifle to protect themselves. They basically, what they need to do, regardless of what they have, they need to understand the consequences of pulling that trigger, right?
Right.
I mean, because those people in that video, it cut away and you couldn't see you couldn't see where the shots were being fired, but there were so many shots. The fact that nobody got killed in it is amazing.
Nobody even got hit.
Yeah, I mean, and by the way, I had a friend yesterday lives up in Robertsdale, and because of the recent rains we had, he found out that he had some roof damage. So the roofer goes up there, and he put it on Facebook. Roofer goes up there and finds not one but 2 bullet holes in his roof.
Creating a problem.
And the problem is like he said, people on the 4th of July go shooting bullets up in the air. Bullet goes up in the air, it has to come down. And when it comes down, it's going through somebody's roof. And so he's got roof damage, and people are just thinking, oh, man, it's fun. We're going to celebrate the 4th of July or New Year's Eve. I just start shooting up in the air. Well, there's consequences because those bullets come down somewhere.
Well, you know, in East Chicago, one of my family members was up early. Some people were firing guns at each other. It went through her roof, went through her Bible, and shot her, and she died.
I didn't know that.
Right. So I'm a big proponent of being safe. Man, I could tell you, I've had the opportunity to be around law enforcement. I've had the opportunity to be around civilians. I was at the gun range when the Gary police officer blew his face off. An unsafe person is an unsafe person. People always say, well, law enforcement, they only basically go to the gun range twice a year, most of them.
Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll take some more calls. Alvin Cheeks is sitting in with me this morning. You're listening to The Morning Call on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll be right back.
Tech Credit Union supports the essential role of union labor in building strong communities. That's why we offer hassle-free banking, financial empowerment, and a commitment to your success. Save for the future, handle life's challenges, and trust a partner that stands by hardworking union members. Tech Credit Union, the better option for you and your money. Visit techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union, supporting union families every step of the way.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad. Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Enjoy the taste of summer at the Farmers Market at Fox Point. Every Tuesday from 9 to 1, shop locally grown fresh produce, delicious baked goods, artisanal treats, and local culinary creations. Just minutes from I-8094, the Farmers Market at Fox Point in Lansing, Illinois is a perfect spot to hear acoustic musicians, stretch with morning yoga, and enjoy community fun throughout the season. To see all vendors and entertainment, visit foxpoint.org. That's point with an E, foxpoint.org.
Plumbers Local 210 is building the future, and we're looking for service plumbers to join our team. Our training center invests nearly $500,000 every year to make sure our members are the best in the industry. From a 5-year apprenticeship and an associate degree at Ivy Tech to ongoing certifications in safety and new technology, our plumbers are trained for excellence. Every member is drug tested and licensed for your safety and peace of mind. When you need plumbing work done, make sure you ask for the license. It's your right to ask.
All right, as always is the case, some of the best conversation I have is when we're having commercial breaks. But I got to ask you, Alvin, okay, you've seen a lot, you've been around a lot, you've been involved in a lot. What's the answer with all this gun violence?
Number one, and I'm about to sound like a preacher, they need to find God. Number two, they need to gain trigger discipline and know that never use a gun as a defensatory tool. What I mean by that, I want you to do something. You're not going to do it because I'm pointing a gun at you. Man, I could tell people all the time, I used to get my ass beat. but I didn't go get a gun because I lost.
Well,
people are afraid of. I don't know. I don't want to violate LC, but they're afraid of getting beat up.
Well, I mentioned this off the air. Look, we're friends on Facebook. I've seen photos. There's a photo of Alvin Cheeks probably a few months ago, and you're the dapper guy. You look like you're wearing a tuxedo. You're all dressed up, okay, and you're providing personal security in Chicago, okay, to celebrity.
Right.
But what's missing in the photo is I knew you were armed, but you're not showing a weapon, okay? Because they don't expect you're going to be there, and like you said, you're going to diffuse a situation by talking to the person.
Right. I spent 8 years with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Nobody carries a gun. Nobody carries as much as an ink pen. And you learn how to defend yourself without a weapon. What most people don't know, I'm more dangerous without a weapon than I am with a weapon. I started out in East Chicago going to the dojo because my mother didn't, because I've been a big guy. You've been a big guy. Big guys tend to want to be intimidating.
Well, big guys are also targets. Let's face it. You and I growing up, we were targets, okay? Everybody's always looking to take down the big guy.
I used to have these guys that chased me home because I live right next door to Little Waco. So I went to Eggers. So you got to go through Little Waco to get home. So I'm not going to tell all the gang members' secrets because I grew up with them. But they have an initiation where you get in a circle, whether you're in a gang or not, and you have to fight. I grew up fighting. And I grew up fighting not to be in a gang. But the thing I learned from fighting is that people that try to intimidate people, they're afraid of somebody that stands up to them. So if you stand up to somebody and be like, hey, I'm standing on this, and we can go toe-to-toe, and if I lose, I lose, people tend to relax. Minister Farrakhan told me one time, hey, Al, you going off into the belly of the beast. I want you to be aggressive. Okay. I got invited to be on the ground in Gary, Indiana with the FOI. The FOI is the security ring of Nation of Islam. So we on the ground and it's gunfire. Go to the gunfire. Make them stop. Try to make somebody stop and they got a gun in their hand. You become very creative in how to talk to people. And I learned that you talk to people and you look them in the eyes and you say, hey, man, take that out of my face.
Folks, I hope everybody's listening to what Alvin's saying, okay? You're talking to people. You're reasoning with them. You're not threatening them with a gun. It's pretty amazing stuff. 845-1100, we've got more callers. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah,
Good morning.
I remember reading a story in the Times a while back about some guy, I think it was in Gary, he murdered two people, execution style. There was a bad drug deal, shot both of them in the back, and then he went up to the one guy, execution style, put one in his head. He gets 20 years for that. A murder and an attempted murder. He gets 20 years, which means his state prison will be out in 10. I'm tired of this stuff. Give me a break here already. I mean, there's no consequences for what these fools are doing out on the street with these guns. You got a Second Amendment, but that doesn't mean you can run around playing Dodge City. These people are pulling out guns in traffic. We had it right across the street from where I live. Some guy opened up a full automatic Glock and shot 5 people, killed 2 of them. And I got to hear about because there's no understanding. We need to have a dialogue.
By the way,
there's no consequence. These idiots go to jail.
By the way, that situation that you're talking about, the guy did get life in prison without parole. It came out yesterday.
Well, what did he do? He shot 5 people. How many does it take?
I agree with you. No. I'm just telling you what happened to him. But Alvin, what do you have to say? What do you have to say to this?
What I would say is that I've had those conversations with Bernie Carter. Straight up, me and him, nobody around. And the way the law is, the prosecutor pleads, they plead, and people negotiate. I don't like all the decisions that the prosecutor brings down. I'm not going to lie on But a lot of times, some of these people don't get enough time. I agree with the caller. But if a police officer got to detail the scenario right, if these officers don't do their reports right, or they leave something out, or they miss a witness, these criminals are using that to get out. People always say the prosecutor's not doing their job. But the prosecutor's not the first responder that writes the report. I think they should say the police are not putting their incident reports correctly, so when the case reaches court, then the individual able to plea it out because it's something they forgot, or they asked them a question without reading their Miranda rights. It's so many reasons why that person got away. Do I be feeling bad? Yes. Because that's another criminal on the street. You know, he commented about, you know, a Glock with a switch on it. That's an illegal weapon in the state of Indiana. It's not illegal to have an automatic weapon, let me say that first. But it's illegal to have a Glock with a switch on it.
This is a modified weapon.
Right. And that doesn't meet... See, to have an automatic weapon, it has to be malfunction. Made before 1996 and back. You have to go get a Series 3 license. So it's a procedure to get... These guys don't have and haven't filled out their paperwork. I have. So now a resident like him sees me with a gun, and he'd be like, oh, he's a criminal. But I'm not. Just because my skin is dark, that don't make me a criminal. I have friends of all colors. I actually have more white friends than I do black. I tell people.
Yeah, I knowing you the way I do, I'd probably agree with you. You probably have more white friends than black friends.
Right, but I don't say, oh, you're going to be my friend because you're black. I don't say you're going to be my friend because you're white. The friends I have and the family that I have like you is because you have a different view. The caller has a different view. But I think the caller got to remember, when that police officer starts that investigation, they got to do it right. I sit in court. Those lawyers know that the officer made a mistake. And they seek through all them documents, and they find a mistake, and they get off. Now, I don't agree with all these plea deals, but they happen for a reason, too.
Well, if I could interject, you know, this guy that was convicted, he was convicted by a jury, I'm assuming, that, and unless the jury was involved in a penalty phase of this thing, it goes to the judge. He was convicted, out and out. And yeah, I know what you're saying about the legalese and everything, but the guy was convicted of one murder and an attempted murder in another case. That's up to the judge to set that. Now, his lawyer can moan and groan and appeal all he wants. But 20 years for execution-style murder of one, attempted murder of another one, that's a joke. And that sends a message out in the street to these people that you can pretty much do whatever you want, you know, and that's how we get in the situation we're in. There was just a story in the news yesterday about a guy that murdered two young women in Chicago. One of them was dumped behind my friend's house about a block down from where he lives. And this is what happens on the street. Once these idiots on the street know that they can get away with this stuff, it's Dodge City. And that's where we're at. And that's one of the big reasons why people eventually vote with their feet, because they're not going to live in a neighborhood like that when this kind of stuff's going on. I always told my wife, you know when we're going to leave? When the bullets start flying. And that's just a fact of life. And I don't see a lot changing that way, actually.
Thanks for the call. I'm going to let Elvin hang up. I'm going to let Elvin answer.
Okay. The caller said he's going to move when the bullets start flying. So where you going? Bullets fly everywhere.
Well, let me ask you a different take on his question, though, because he's a regular caller and he's got a lot of good points. There are a lot of people, in fact, he and I have talked about this before, a lot of people stay out of Chicago right now because of the dangers in Chicago. Okay? Right. If you had the chance, knowing what you know, understanding community organization, understanding the focus that you've had over the years on youth with the chess tournaments and all that, if you became mayor of Chicago, Alvin, what would you do to reduce the murder rate?
I would change the gun laws, and I would make it legal for everybody to carry a weapon. I would make it how Indiana is. We get things in Indiana. It's no wood around here, but we don't get no active shooter. We don't get people pulling out guns, shooting up innocent people, because the bad guy doesn't know who has a gun. In Illinois, you already know don't nobody got no gun. So if they don't have a gun, I do something, who's there to check me? Who's there to protect that little old lady that might have just went to go get some groceries or might have just went to go get some tomatoes to fry them?
And that's so well. That's such a strong point. I heard Willie Wilson recently talk about the fact that, again, I mentioned yesterday. I've talked to Willie Wilson's assistant, and I'm trying to get him to come on one day to talk. But he said that the problem in Chicago right now is that you have to basically pay for safe passage for your mother to be able to walk down the street to go to the store because it's that bad. And he said the same thing you said. He says the problem is the bad guys have the weapons and the good guys don't.
Why do they have to buy a FOI card? Okay, I buy this FOI card, then I got to go to the store and buy a gun. A FOI card is not legal. Those people of Chicago deserve to be able to protect themselves. They deserve to be able for their grandmother to walk down any block in Chicago. Those guys shoot at the police and the police run.
Yeah, well, in part
shoot at one of the police that's in my neighborhood. I bet you they're not going to run.
Well, yeah, you're right. Hammond PD's not going to run. Okay, but Chicago PD, basically, you've got the political organization over there that's telling them that if they do shoot somebody, they're going to get investigated by whatever it is,
Right.
which usually are some crazies anyway that are investigating things they don't really know what they're doing, and they've made it impossible for police officers to be police officers. But like you said, the problem is nobody knows who's got a gun up there. The bad guys have the guns and the good people don't. We got another caller. We'll last caller, and then we'll take a break, and we'll get Alvin out of here. Good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Alvin Shakes. My goodness, as I live and breathe. So how old is the son?
Oh, my God. You made my son a Green Bay Packer fan. Oh, my God.
Okay, there's one strike against you, Bobby.
No strikes, honey. That's baseball. I'm football. In case you didn't remember, the Green Bay Packers are a football team. Anyway, Alvin.
Hey, Bobby, you forget my best friend is Rick Mossels, and he's a Packer
I know
fan,
Rick,
so,
and
yes.
Rick and I are, yes, we are very in the club.
Yep.
But anyway, Alvin.
Yes, ma'am.
Alvin, darling, tell me, how old is that son? I remember when he was born.
Alvino is 25. He lives in Hawaii.
Oh.
He's force recon for the United States Marine Corps. And he's still going to go to law school. He still has Green Bay stuff everywhere. And I thank you. I knew nothing about raising a son. I used to bring my son, and Bobby used to say, well, don't give him sweets. Okay, cut down. I honestly, I used to bring my son everywhere with me. And she was like, whose son is that? I'd be like, mine. She's like,
I remember you bringing your son, and you did a heck of a job raising your son. Your son, again, he's a Marine.
Yeah.
He is. I mean, again, you've got a lot to be proud of there.
And I'll tell a secret. Since Bobby's retired, she used to be associated with the battered women's shelter. I was their security. I used to help. Most people never knew that I used to protect those women, and I learned so much. Bobby said, "You protect those women, and you help them." You know, I don't live far from where they keep women safe. I caught a guy one time climbing a gate, and that's a violation of our neighborhood. You don't bother that building, and you don't bother those women. And everybody, I'm emotional because you would have to know my history with Bobby. But it's like, she taught me to protect women.
Be careful now. Be careful.
Right. And she would, she's a small case lady. But she would get in your face and she'd be like, do this and this. And I want you to read. I want you to learn. And don't say nothing unless you know the facts. Don't be assuming. And I love her for that.
Alvin, let me throw this out, okay? You mentioned Bobby. Let's not forget Fran Dupe. If you put those two together,
my God, those were my mentors. That's how I learned about the First District.
You put Fran and Bobby together, and trust me, you got a formidable team to deal with.
Right, and I owe her so much. Only part I'm still not into the Green Bay stuff, but
I'm not either. But
I do have a blanket that I bought.
Well, I can't do that because I don't want to. I never want Rick Mossels to feel like he's winning in any way, shape, or form, Bobby. So I'll give you.
Rick will always be a winner. But let me just say one more thing about Alvin. There were a lot of people back then who goes, "Oh my God, here comes Alvin Cheeks again." And life has very many different ways of going and doing things. Alvin and I argued. We argued a lot. Don't step on my door. But everything that has ever come from the past goes to the future. And you have made such a wonderful life for you, for your son. And I remember those days. I mean, There were a lot of people who did not like Alvin Cheeks. I mean, Alvin can tell you many stories. I won't go into all those details.
You know what? I agree. I agree with you. There were people, but they didn't understand Alvin because, like we were talking before, Bobby, I used to talk. I argue with Alvin about all kinds of things, but we always left as friends, and that's what's lost on today's society. Okay, you and I can argue all day long. You and I have argued plenty. Okay, Fran and I, my God, I mean, Fran would call my house, Tommy, and she'd let in. She'd go off on me. She always called me Tommy, as you know, and she'd go off on me. But I loved her. I respected her. I respect you. I respect Alvin because part of life is that you don't always have to agree with everybody.
Right.
Let me just add one more thing that of the past too. One of the great people, a police officer who was probably one or two in the best of the state of Indiana as far as guns were concerned, and his name was Terry Ballantyne. And he used to teach at the school that was in, I don't know if it was a school, but where in Hestill, where they had the gun range, and taught many of the police officers that came through. You remember that, right, Alvin?
Oh, yeah, that's where I got my start at, Deb's Gun Range.
Yeah, right, exactly. And Terry was a very well-known officer in the state of Indiana when it came to guns and the proper use of guns and the proper training of guns. And, But, Alvin, it was good to hear your voice.
Oh, without doubt. And I thank you and your family so much, Bobby. I really do.
Oh, hey, life was easier then, and it wasn't easy, but we made it easier, and which makes a big difference. A big difference. Love you.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, man.
It was great to see you.
Great seeing you too, man.
And great to have you come on because, I always enjoy having you come on because you speak the truth. You speak from the heart. And I think people just need to hear, too, that, not everybody has this kind of complacent view when it comes to gun violence. Not everybody has a view that it's just the guns that are causing the violence. Like you said the day you showed that
never committed a crime.
The gun, that's what you said in that video. You said the gun never committed a crime. It's the people holding the guns that are the problem.
Right.
So I love having you on because I think people need to hear that point of view. So when we come back, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to WJOB 1230 AM 104.7 FM. It's the Morning Call with Tom Dabertin, Day 2, and we'll be right back after these commercial announcements.
Thank you.
We've had some cars run into the barrier wall, not paying attention. They were on their phone.
Texting, scrolling. Yeah, it's bad. Most often they be on their phones or they're just not paying attention. They can cause a crash.
We could stand on the side of the road and watch every other vehicle looking down into their lap as they're passing us. You know what they're looking at. They're looking at their phone.
Phones. On their phones, not paying attention. Phones.
I'm not a mathematician, but I say probably about 80% of the people who pass me are on their telephones.
No call, text, or video is worth putting yourself or a road worker in danger. When driving through construction, LIUNA members ask you for your sake and ours.
Slow down, stay off your phone, please. Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at.
Stay off your phones and buckle up and drive safe.
We're not asking for much.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Life's biggest challenges don't come with a warning. When legal issues arise, whether it's a car accident, personal injury, criminal charge, or representing you before municipal boards, you need a trusted advocate on your side. At Westland & Bennett, we listen first because your story matters. We provide strategic, personalized legal solutions to protect your rights, your freedom, and your future. Peace of mind starts with a conversation. Call 219-440-7550 today for a free consultation.
Do you like to work with your hands, creating something from nothing? Then think about Laborers Local 41. You'll get 432 hours of apprenticeship training, all while earning a wage with benefits and incurring no student debt. You'll travel to different job sites, learn tons of skills, and in a lot of cases, be the first one on and last one off a job site. It all starts at laborers41.com.
Fishing for a seafood meal without the stress or mess of cooking? Leave the work to the Strachan Van Til Seafood Department. For just $1 extra per pound, we'll fry, grill, or steam your fish with your choice of 3 kinds of breading. Try our fish and seafood dinners. Each includes a ½ pound each of seafood and fries, and a ¼ pound of coleslaw. Want the freshest catch in town? Reel in the fish and seafood selections from your local Strachan Van Til.
All right, we're back, and I'm just checking traffic again. On the Indiana Toll Road, it's basically now showing that it's about clear, but it shows some minor slowdowns. Folks, if I were you, I'd still avoid that area. There was an accident involving a vehicle and a motorcycle. I would avoid that this morning. I would jump off on I-65 or the interchange with 8094. Get off there. If you're going eastbound, and then get back on about 49. It was great to have Alvin here. He was just saying off the air that he's in training. He's going to ride the Wham ride this weekend, which is Saturday evening, and starts up at the PAV along Wolf Lake, and runs about 25 miles through Hammond and Whiting and other communities. And I'm hoping to ride it possibly myself, depending A, on the weather, and B, where we go to dinner Saturday night, because if we end up at Pequod's Pizza, I'm not going to ride it with half a pizza in my stomach. But 845-1100, we're going to be here till 9 o'clock. One of the interesting things, too, is I posted a post last week about Anthony Fauci on Facebook, and about some of the statements that Fauci had made versus what he was writing in his diary. And Alvin, again, true to form, Alvin texted me and says, "Is this true?" And I said, "Yep, it is." And he goes, "Really?" He goes, "So the man lied?" And I said, "Yes." Next thing I know, Alvin reposted what I posted on his own Facebook page and said, "Look at this." And, I really like Alvin because he's a realist. He talks about real things, talks about real problems. And again, you need a whole show to cover his devotion to teaching kids to play chess. And he started the chess leagues in Hammond and the chess tournaments. And in fact, my own son used to play in it. So he's done a lot of good. 845-1100 is the number to call. We've been talking about a lot of other things this morning. So you've got the BP oil strike, and it is now in its 5th month or so, and it's going nowhere. I fault BP because they want everything on their terms. And the next time somebody tells me that a merger with a foreign corporation is a good idea, I might have to have Alvin get in between me and them, because BP Oil, when they supposedly merged with Standard Oil of Indiana with Amoco, it was nothing but a takeover, and they've decimated the company. They've decimated the commitment to local communities, including Whiting in Northwest Indiana, and they really don't care. And they pretty much tell you privately they don't care. They just don't care. And as Lee pointed out when he called in, he worked out there for years. They have 800 employees, but they've got 8,000 contract employees, and the company likes it that way. And contract employees are easier to replace, so they kind of like it. But there are some real problems over there, and I just don't see the strike ending very soon, unless Donald Trump, whether you like Donald Trump or not, Donald Trump is president of the United States. If Trump were to make some statements to BP about this strike, things would change very quickly. And why would he do that? Well, because that refinery is so immense and so large and so significant to gas prices and aviation fuel prices throughout the Midwest. I think it serves 9 or 10 states. On one and 12 on the other. I can't remember which one. It serves, I think, a larger range for gasoline than it does for jet fuel, whatever it is. That with the President of the United States weighing in, that might be an answer. The British, including British Petroleum, might get the hint if Donald Trump were to jump on it, and I think the connection there is Mike Braun. I give Braun a lot of credit. I've not been a big fan of Mike Braun. Think SB1 is just plain stupid. It's a shell game. They're playing us, folks. Wait a few more years and see the impact of SB1. And so those of you who think, well, you save $400 on your taxes, you'll be paying more than twice that amount in other taxes. And it's going to come about shortly, and the impact that it's going to have on police and fire and public works is going to be dramatic, and we're all going to be hurting because of SB1. So not a huge fan of Mike Braun, but I give Braun a lot of credit. He's been out to BP, to the picket line a few times. He sided with the picketers. He has demanded that BP come together. He's demanded that BP sit down, and I think that Mike Braun has a pretty good connection to Donald Trump, and maybe he can get Donald Trump to take up the cause, because again, BP Oil gives me the impression of being very arrogant. I've dealt with them before, and unfortunately, they have kind of an arrogant approach when it comes to things, and they don't. They don't view it as what's best for the community. They view what's best for them. When they had a problem a year or two ago due to some heavy flooding, and it washed some oil-laden ground to the surface, and there were some people saw kind of rainbows floating on puddles near 121st. BP Oil basically, I had somebody from there contact me because they knew that I knew a lot of people in the Chicago news media, and they're like, well, maybe you can help us with the news media on this. I'm like, nope. What you did was wrong. Okay, clean up your mess. And they were taken aback, and they weren't very happy with my response to them. And so, and I also know that when some of the Chicago reporters came out, one in particular is a very long-time friend. She called me and said, Tom, these people are ridiculous. They're having a meeting, but they won't even tell us where the meeting is at. So I think there's some real issues with dealing with BP Oil. And again, I hope and pray for the health and welfare of 800 employees and probably 2,400 family members, and the thousands of people that are down the line that are affected by that lockout, that we get some relief soon. So 845-1100 is the number to call on that. There is a fever game tonight. Indiana Fever, you've heard me talk about the Indiana Fever quite a bit. And obviously, I always talk about Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Two great players. They are at odds with the WNBA, largely because Caitlin Clark is phenomenal as people say she is. She is. She's phenomenal. And I hate to break this down, but the fact is she is a straight white woman, and she doesn't fit the WNBA. And Sophie Cunningham is a straight white woman who's a very good player. She is one of the leaders of the entire league on three-point percentages. But Sophie Cunningham doesn't look like she has to play basketball. She could do a lot of other things. I mean, she's beautiful. She's attractive. And there is immense jealousy about the attention that those two women get. The game tonight is at 6 o'clock. It's in Indianapolis. And the part of the reason why it's noteworthy is because Cunningham spoke out against transgender men in women's sports, and she has gotten a lot of notoriety for it, and she's gotten a lot of backlash from people like Reeves, who's the coach of the Lynx, and some other members of the WNBA who keep on promoting this idea that the majority of people somehow support transgender men playing in women's sports, which is the absolute opposite. The fact is that 80% of Americans don't support it. In fact, it was pointed out to me yesterday that polls say 80% of Democrats don't support it, and that the actual percentage is like 90% of Americans are opposed to it. Why the WNBA is doing this, and why they basically want to ruin what they've got. They've got amazing interest. They've got sellout crowds, largely because of Caitlin Clark, and now huge interest and huge attraction because of Sophie Cunningham, who has some pretty mainstream views. You know, she was on her podcast the other day, and she said, that a successful relationship doesn't have to start with sex on the first date. And she just says her mind. She says what she believes. And she's getting tremendous pushback from certain elements within the WNBA, and it doesn't make a lot of sense as to why people are going after her and going after Caitlin Clark. And I was talking to somebody yesterday, and they said, they're going to kill the golden goose. They just are. They've finally got interest. People like myself are watching the games, and they're going to drive Caitlin Clark out of the league. They're going to drive Sophie Cunningham out of the league. They both can do other things. And when they do, that league is going to collapse because they're not going to have the kind of followers and fans that they have right now. 845-1100 is the number to call. The phone lines are now open, so we're going to be here until 8 o'clock. I brought up this yesterday about the third party in America. And look, let me explain. I'm not advocating the specific agenda of forming a third party, but what I am saying is I'm frustrated as much as anybody else with the beliefs and the extremist views of both parties. So I look at the average Democrats, okay? Bobby Costa just called. I'm not going to put her on the spot, but Bobby was a Democrat for many years. We mentioned Fran Dupe when Alvin was here. Some of the extremist views that are being bandied about now by Democrats like El Said in Michigan, or Hong, the candidate Francesca Hong for governor of Wisconsin. I mean, she's a complete nut job. She is as nutty as can be. She's never really held a job. So her wealthy parents basically are going to fund her so she can run for governor of Wisconsin. I mean, she's as nuts as can be. She doesn't identify with the average Democrat. The Democrat that grew up in Northwest Indiana that, understood that the Democratic Party was there for the average person and was there to help them and got them through tough times. This is an extremist. This is a person who, among other things, doesn't even have the common sense to understand the origins of Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving has always been viewed as the holiday that brings us together. And she claims that Thanksgiving is a holiday that we should get rid of because, in her view, the it celebrates the the white man's victory over Native Americans. I mean, she's as stupid and as ridiculous as anybody that's ever run for office, and she's going to probably be the gubernatorial nominee in Wisconsin. In Michigan, you not only have El Said, you have some other people, and again, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, why are these extremists being elected? And then you look at, or at least nominated. I should say nominated. They're not being elected; they're being nominated. But in some cases, the fact that they got their party nomination, they're going to win the fall election. Then they're going to be in Congress, and they're really going to mess things up. And then you've got extremists on the Republican side. We all agree on voter ID. Okay, it's a 90-10 position in the United States. Yet some Republicans basically want to make that law so difficult that most people would have a difficult time voting. And so why not compromise and just make it a pretty simple, straightforward law and get it passed? Get it passed. This idea that, the filibuster is sacred. Okay, well, I have news for everybody. The filibuster is sacred to a point, but the president continues to have a veto, all right? And it takes 2/3 majority to override his veto. So, over the years, they've reduced the impact of the filibuster anyway when it comes to budget issues. So is it time to just walk away from the filibuster? 845-1100 is the number to call. I'm throwing out some issues that I think really need to be discussed, whether it's, again, this ridiculous argument about transgender men and women's sports, or whether it's the extremists that are being elected on both ends of the political spectrum, and how that affects you and what your thoughts are. Or we can even talk about kind of follow up to what Alvin and I were talking about, which is gun violence, which, again, if you can get to Alvin's page on Facebook and see this video, it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. So, again, 845-1100 is the number to call. We live in a time and an age where we worry about ourselves and we worry about nobody else. We don't worry about whether, as Alvin said, you pull that trigger, okay, that's somebody's spouse, that's somebody's parent, that's somebody's brother, that's their sister. People don't think about that. They're just going to go and they're going to wave a gun and point a gun and pull the trigger on somebody, and they don't think about the consequences. And so, we live in a time and a place where we really don't care. And then we've touched a little bit on the last couple of days, as we always do, about Chicago and the mayoral race. And what do you think happens there? Because I agree with the caller earlier today. We're probably going to a runoff in Chicago. Nobody's going to get 51% on the first round. But of the candidates that are out there, there's, according to what I pulled up, there's 8 declared, but there's 4 more waiting in the wings. Who gets elected in Chicago? And will they be able to stand up and do what's right, or are they just going to be another patsy for the political powers that be? I mean, Brandon Johnson certainly is not in control of things. He is just a puppet on a string for the teachers union in Chicago, and hasn't got a clue. But what about the next person? Janulius doesn't strike me as being too sharp either. He looks to me to be basically the creation of some political hacks. Some political strategists are going to basically put Janulius out there because he's a white guy and he smiles well on camera, and they're going to make him mayor. Does that make him qualified to be mayor? Does he have any views that make sense? I mean, he has spent the last 3 months on television running ads that basically show him campaigning for re-election as Secretary of State in Illinois by running on the agenda that he is there to block Donald Trump. The Secretary of State in Illinois really has no impact when it comes to the presidency of the United States. Talk about a guy who's in a position that has no say or no impact whatsoever on the presidency of the United States. It's Janulius, who is Secretary of State, but he runs constantly. I'm there fighting against Donald Trump. Tell me one thing that you've done to fight against Donald Trump, Mr. Janulius, because you can't name it, but you probably don't even know what office you hold. 845-1100, we've got a caller. Good morning. You're on the air. Good morning. Oops.
Talking to you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Sorry about that. We had a little technical problem.
Okay.
So repeat.
Sorry to be a repeat caller, but the gentleman you were talking to earlier caused me great concerns about young people. I mean, even here in Northwest Indiana, some things may not catch folks' attention, Hammond, but at Lake Central, it was documented in the paper about a severe fight in the school. One that really didn't hit media too much either because it's more rural down at Kankakee Valley. There was a viral video of a girl getting beat over the head with, I think it was one of those steel Stanley thermoses, not once, twice, multiple times, no supervision. And the girl, bleeding, and from what I understand, it's being taken care of through the juvenile courts. What is going on in society with our young people? What is wrong with these parents who are in their 40s or whatever? Can't they be parents?
Well, let me
address
that. Let
your
me
mom
address
raised
that.
Go ahead.
So I think part of the problem is that, we talked about this a few weeks ago. We have a lot of baby mamas who are raising kids who basically don't know what they're doing. Then you have the compound of the generation that was impacted by COVID. All right, we had these useless lockdowns where kids were not allowed to go to school for a year to 2 years. And God knows what they were doing when they're home. I've had people tell me that there is definitely a difference when you have those students in a classroom versus other individuals. And look, I agree with you. Violence is wrong in any way, shape, or form. And I don't think Alvin was advocating violence. His point was that when he was a kid, that there was always that he had to basically learn how to fend for himself on the streets of Hammond because he was kind of a big guy, and he was always a target. And I'll agree with him. I mean, I'm a big guy myself, and growing up, you're kind of a big guy. He wasn't advocating fighting by any means.
Well, and I understand part of that. I think when you start getting to Lake Central and down towards Kankakee Valley, it's a little different demographic, less diversified. You may have a few more intact families, mom and dads. I think there's also an issue of a change where these parents want to be kids' friends. It's no longer if you get in trouble at school, you're in bigger trouble at home. Now it's all of a sudden they're looking, it's not my child, it's everybody else as well. I think we're dealing with that in society.
Hey, I agree.
Thank you for letting me call back in.
No, I agree with you. And let me just say this, I've joked about it before. When we were kids, my mother had to raise 6 kids by herself, okay, because my father passed away at a very early age. But she had quite a little network going. I mean, I found out years later that when I was a kid, my mother worked as a purchasing manager at Union Carbide in Whiting. And I always thought that those Union Carbide truck drivers were the friendliest guys on earth. I'd actually see a semi tractor trailer pull down Superior Avenue, the 2100 block of Superior, and the guy would come by and he'd honk the horn and he'd wave and he'd say, "Hey kid, who are you? What's your name?" "Tom." "Oh, okay. Hey Tom, have a nice day." And he'd take off. Years later, I met that guy and he said, "Oh yeah, your mother would basically say to me, do me a favor, when you're running your run, drive down my street and see what my kids are up to and see which ones are outside." Okay? She had a network. That woman could have run the CIA and the NSA combined. She knew everything that went on. She knew when I rode my bicycle through the puddle at Atchison and 122nd, and I used to love to ride through that puddle. It was a great big puddle after a rainstorm. And she said, "No riding your bike through puddles." So I come home one day, I'm soaking wet. There she is. She's standing out in front of the house. She just pulled up. And she says, "Tommy, why are you all wet?" And I said, well, I jumped in the lake. It was hot. She says, well, why is your bike wet? And I said, well, because I wanted to clean my bike off. I figured I'd clean it off in the lake. And then she says, really? Because Mrs. So-and-so just called me and told me that you were riding through those puddles again, so now you're grounded for 2 weeks. You can't ride your bike. Okay? I mean, you didn't get away with that kind of stuff. These days, you're right. Parents say, well, it's not my problem. Of course it's your problem. You're their parent. What happened to, I still tell my kids, my son's coming over to dinner tonight, and I'm going to tell him all kinds of stuff. And he's 29 years old. He's 30 years old. I'm going to go and tell him all kinds of things. He's a licensed attorney, but you know what? He's my kid until the day I die. And that's what my mother told me. She said, I'm your parent until the day I die. And of course, I've regretted her death, every day since. I mean, I miss her tremendously. But you're a parent. You're responsible for those kids. You have to take a role in your kid's life.
Well, there for a while, we heard the complaints about helicopter parents, which can be a bit much. I'd much rather have a helicopter parent than have an absentee parent. And sometimes you'll discover in schools, sometimes the children have it more together than their parent. And unfortunately, a lot of grandparents are raising their children nowadays because the parents are still alive. They're in their 40s and just don't have their act together.
And you know what? There are some great grandparents that are filling in as parents. I can think of a couple in Whiting. They raised their grandson, and wow, they did an amazing job. And I won't mention their names, but they're well-known couple. They were great. They did everything and anything, and they gave that grandchild the life and the direction and the supervision and the parenting that he may not have otherwise had. And I give tremendous credit to those people. But again, my wife's son is a teacher. All right, and it's funny because I hear my wife telling her son, who's staying with us for a couple of weeks until he moves into his new rental home. And, I hear her telling him, don't forget to do this, and don't forget to do that, and don't forget to do this. Okay, he's 27 years old, 28 years old. But you know what? You're a parent until the day you die. And that's lost on entire generations in the United States. And I'm glad you called back because it's a great subject to talk about. Thank you so much. 845-1100 is the number to call. Let's take a quick break. We'll finish out the last 30 minutes of the morning call, day 2, on WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM when we come back.
It's the simplest expression. The smallest thing that changes everything. A smile. So easy. A smile lights it up. Apologizes. And welcomes unconditionally. Because the shortest distance between two people is a smile.
Thank you.
Strachan Van Til, where making life easier starts with a smile.
I'm a victim of being ran over by a semi while I was flagging. The person wasn't paying attention and they hit me with their vehicle.
I seen a accident where we were the first people to walk up, and that picture will never leave my mind.
I've seen people get hit before. It's been horrible.
Construction zones on roadways and bridges are more than just cones and equipment. They're the workplace for thousands of dedicated union laborers.
Everybody has a family that they need to get back home to, so please just pay attention to us out here while we're working.
We all have family, and I know it's a pain in the ass, but we're trying to make the roads better for y'all.
We're doing this for everyone.
We're hardworking Hoosiers, just like you, and we all want to make it home safely.
People would just take a couple seconds to pay attention.
Be aware where we're at, where the cone zones are at. We're all in this together, and we're all just trying to be safe.
This is Brian Short, Business Manager for the Indiana Laborers District Council. Everyone deserves a safe place to work. Do your part in the cone zone. Slow down, save a life. We're all in this together.
A message from Laborers International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
Are you sausage curious?
Who's ready for Polish? Big Frank Sausage has the very best Polish food in the region.
You had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage?
We have a full bar, dine-in, carry-out, delivery, and catering available.
I've had a mouthful of Big Frank sausage.
I've got a mouthful of Big Frank sausage. 219-378-9556. Smacznego i na zdrowie. Who's ready for Polish?
Are you
searching for a college where you belong? Calumet College of St. Joseph wants to know you and give you the support you need to succeed. Are you worried about how you'll pay for your degree? 95% of our students receive financial aid, including scholarships and grants. Need some extra help with your classes? You'll benefit from our small class sizes, free tutoring, internship planning, faculty mentors, and so much more. Come experience our accepting, supportive college family for yourself. Schedule your campus visit and apply at ccsj.edu.
All right, we're back, and I'll just do a shout out to a friend by the first name of Jim, who had a very well-known career in banking in Northwest Indiana. Yes, Jim, that was your mom who turned me in and riding on the bicycle. And another story that I can remember of my mom was back when I was growing up as a kid, you had return bottles, pop bottles. So you got like a nickel, I think, per bottle. And one time I find a bunch of bottles behind somebody's house. They put them out in the alley. I think somebody passed away and they cleaned out the garage and they left the bottles. So I pick up some bottles and I take them back to Condis's. And Condis's had a little store on 119th Street, and I go in there and I traded them in for some candy bars. And the woman behind the counter is laughing and she says, "Oh, you're back again." And I came back a couple of times and I got a couple cans of pop and some candy bars. And I went home that night and I remember we had dessert and my mother says, "Everybody's having dessert except for you. You've already had it." And I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, let me see. You had a Reese's peanut butter cup. You had a Snickers bar. You had a Hershey's bar, and you had 2 cans of pop." I mean, again, she knew everything. This is a woman who worked a regular job, 40 hours a week, had 6 kids, and knew what everybody was doing all the time, anywhere, anyway, anyhow. She knew. You go home and she knew. And I will tell this, one of the more embarrassing things, but there was a guy who lived across the street, and my brother Mark and I were friends with his sons, and he was a divorcee, he was a bachelor, and he was a lot of fun. He used to take us to the movies, had a Ford Mustang, and he was just a lot of fun, very nice to us. But one day, one of his sons says to me, "Hey, my dad, he subscribes to Playboy." And I said, "Really?" So he shows me the Playboys, and he says, "Well, you could take it. My dad won't miss it. He won't know that it's gone from his collection. You can take it with you." So I'm going to sneak it home. And I have it under my shirt. I have it tucked in. My shirt's tucked in. Here comes my mom. She comes pulling up in front of the house. And I wave to her. And all I can tell you, folks, is the shirt somehow came out of my tucked into my pants, and the Playboy fell open on the street right to the centerfold. And my mother looked at it and she said, "Pick it up and take it back." Again, there was no way getting around her. She knew what you were up to. 845-1100. Is that, again, what's the problem with kids these days? We talked to Alvin Cheeks, and he's talking about gun violence. And he talked about his mom, and he talked about his dad, and he talked about his mom giving him the first gun, and her instilling in him that there were responsibilities to be safe with a gun, okay, that you had to act responsibly. And we miss all that these days. Now we have people who, as the caller said, much rather have helicopter parents than absentee parents, because parents have decided, well, it's not my problem. It's not my job. Okay. Bobby Costa called in. Bobby still, I guarantee you that she's still pretty engaged with her kids. But it's not, you don't see that this day and age. You don't see parents basically taking on responsibility. I'll make jokes about Jed Dietlow all day long, but I won't joke about the fact that he's a dedicated grandparent. Even though his daughter is an excellent parent, he's a dedicated grandparent. All right, he's involved in those kids' lives, and I give him a lot of credit for that. And again, he'll be playing this tape, and he'll probably doctor it later, Lynette, and cut out, he'll cut out some parts of it. But you know what? He was a dedicated parent too. I'll give him that. He was a dedicated parent. And where or why we got away from the idea of having dedicated parents and grandparents and having values instilled upon us, it's lost on me because, again, parenting is the ultimate responsibility. All right. I have 2 kids. I'm involved in their lives. I'm engaged with them. Again, my son will be over this evening. We're having ribs. He'll be over. I'll catch up on everything that he's doing and probably tell him 10 different things that he should be doing, and he'll kind of roll his eyes, but he'll hear it from me. And, Donna will do the same with her son. And I don't understand why people today have this idea like, well, I gave them a life. Now they're 7 or 8 and they're not my problem. It's like, no, they are your problem. You need to be engaged. You need to be part of their lives, and you need to be part of their lives when they're adults. I've told the story before about going to the movie Titanic. I stood in line. We went to see it at the Hoosier Theater. The line went all the way around the corner on LaPorte Avenue, all the way down to the alley. So if you know Whiting, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The place was totally sold out. We stood in line for over an hour. We get into the movie. My mother, of course, opens up her purse. I buy popcorn, and she's got, 47 other items in her purse, including, she says to me, well, and again, I'm in my 40s at this point, and she says to me, well, here, I've got a wet washcloth for you to wipe all that grease off your fingers from the popcorn. I'm like, Mom, excuse me, but I've got kids on my own. I'm an adult now. And she's like, that's fine. Maybe you just want to walk around with grease on your fingers. So we keep on watching the movie. And then the scene comes up, the Kardex scene where, DiCaprio's making out with whatever her name is, the lead actress. And, it's pretty mild compared to most movies I've seen. But anyway, there's kind of a sexual connotation to it. And all of a sudden, my mother, I see her packing up her purse. In goes the washcloth. It goes back into the Ziploc bag. In goes the mints. In goes the candy, everything. I said, what are you doing? She goes, well, I'm leaving. I said, well, why are you leaving? We stood in line for over an hour to see this dumb movie. I didn't even want to see it, but you wanted somebody to go with you, so I agreed to go. And people are looking at us, kind of shushing us, and she says, listen, I'm not sitting here watching this filth with my son. So I calm her down. She ends up watching the movie. And then she comes home, and I was fooling with her kitchen sink because my mother never found a kitchen sink that she couldn't jam up. And all of a sudden, she's on the phone to her best friend, Margaret. And I hear her say, Margaret, that is the greatest movie. Oh, we need to go see it. It's a wonderful movie. Oh, my gosh, I cried. It was so great. It was so moving. She hangs up, and I said, hey, Ma, kind of hypocritical, isn't it? I mean, you're ready to leave the movie, and then you're telling Margaret to go see it. And she says, listen, she says, you may be my son. You may be my adult son. You may have your own children and married, but she said, you're still my son, and I don't want to see a sex scene in a movie with my son. Fair enough? And I said, yeah, I got the point. And that was the end of the conversation. And I mean, again, she was a kind of a remarkable lady, but there are a lot of people that could do just what my mother did in raising their kids. And whether you've got, 2 parents or 1, you can do it. You can do it. They can turn out to be successful. They can turn out to be good people, good human beings. But it involves being a good parent. And parenting is lost this day and age. And Jed's walking through, and he's thanking me for my comments about him being a good parent, a good grandparent. But that's okay. I'll get even with you on anything else that you might do today. But I just think that it's part of the problem that we have. It's part of the reason why we have now these extreme views in government. People weren't taught better. They weren't taught the idea that you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and you make yourself into something and you become successful. And, for what it's worth, I've had plenty of arguments with Dave Kuziak over the years, but Dave Kuziak talks about the fact that hard work turns into a reward. And he's right about that. You see Dave, and he's still out there and he's still working. And he works very hard to make a living, but he's been successful because he puts in the work. And I just think that's kind of lost on us. So last 15 minutes of the morning, I'd love to hear from somebody listening to tell me what they think. I mean, is this the root cause of the problems that we're having with the kind of extremism that we have on when it comes to political views, that people basically aren't given certain values? I mean, Lynette, put your headset on. Let me ask you, okay? I don't like to put you on the spot, but is part of the problem with today's society the fact that there's that loss of relationship with parents? What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think a lot of parents these days they don't really care, and they're very entitled. I don't think a lot of parents know how to parent anymore.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to you off the air, look, you've got a good, tight family relationship, okay? You're very close to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
But you're kind of the exception, basically. You're not the rule, okay? It's not the rule. You're an exception with that relationship to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sad. Adriana's another one. I mean, she talks about her family and her parents and her family. And how did we get away? How did we lose that connection? Is it that people are having kids too young and they can't accept the responsibility? Is it that people have just decided that parents aren't their responsibility and walking away from it? I mean, what is it?
I think generational trauma is also another factor that plays into it.
Well, explain. Go ahead. Expand.
So
on
if
that.
if you grew up with parents who didn't treat you well, and you decide to follow in their footsteps and have children, and you have the same parenting style as your parents, then you're not really breaking the cycle.
So that's an interesting theory, because in my own case, I probably overcompensated in being involved in my kids' lives because I didn't have a dad.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure that my kids knew that their dad was around. In fact, part of the reason why I started my own business as a consultant for years was because I would be able to work at night after they went to sleep and be able to be the one that was at every basketball game and every softball game and every baseball game and just, involved with them. And so not having a father growing up made me want to do that even more. But you're saying that a lot of the problem is it's kind of carryover effect, that they didn't have a good relationship with their parents, so they're not going to have much of a relationship with their kids.
And I've said this before, but you could have a child and raise them right, do everything right, but then you send them off into society in public, and they go to school and they make friends with other kids who don't have a great life or good, caring parents, and they get easily influenced, and so you end up losing them like that.
But you and I've laughed about this before, but I said to you before that part of the reason why you don't get yourself into trouble is because you have that thought in your mind, what is your mother and father going to think of, right?
Yeah.
And here, my mom's been dead since 2007. And, I think of doing things sometimes, and you have this crazy thought, or idea. And then it's like all of a sudden I have a memory of my mom, and it's like, no, I'm not doing that. I mean, your parents, you want to please them. You want to honor them through doing the right thing. And it keeps you from, let's face it keeps you sometimes from doing things you shouldn't do. And it's sad. I wish there were a way that they could teach parenting in high school. I really think that they should. I know that they argue that they can't teach parenting for a lot of reasons, and amongst others is they don't want to encourage kids to become parents too soon. But I wish there were a course. If you go buy a house, there's actually a course you can take as first homeowner, and you can take a course now. Banks offer it all over the place. They offer those courses even in high school, but there's no real course on parenting. And, unfortunately, if it were up to me, I should have videotaped my mom and let her give her wisdoms. I mean, she did crazy things. I mean, I still remember when my kids were little and I came over and the kids are dancing around the kitchen and she's making popcorn for them and her dog's jumping up and catching the popcorn. And I said, well, why didn't you put a cover on it? I mean, where's the cover? My mother says, I don't want the cover on it. Obviously, I know where a cover is for my pots and pans. She said, but I wanted the kids to experience the experience of the corn basically changing its shape and creating the pop and not being afraid and enjoying it. And so there's popcorn. I'm not kidding you. I mean, she's got this great big Dutch oven on the stove, and it's flying everywhere. And the thing is, my mom losing it, and she's like, no. She said, you need to expose young kids to, different things, and I'm exposing them to what happens when corn pops, and her dog is standing up on its hind legs, just waiting to catch the next kernel that's popping out of the popcorn. And I said, well, who's going to clean this up? And my mother said, watch. And of course, her other dog comes in there, and between the two of them, they're like vacuum sweepers, and they clean it all up. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but we have a lot of problems in this country. And let me ask you this, since I've got you on the air, what do you think of some of these extremist candidates out of like Michigan? Okay, the guy that basically, or this woman in Wisconsin, this is no borders, no police, no jails, no prisons. You work just when you want to, and that's good enough, and you're guaranteed a job. I mean, what do you think about those kinds of views?
It's not realistic.
It's not realistic. Yeah, it's not. I mean, you can say no jails and no prisons, but what happens when that individual does harm to you or to your family? Mm-hmm. Okay, what happens to keep that person from doing it again? It's not just retribution. It's keeping society safe. I mean, when you look at more heinous crimes, murders and rapes, I mean, those are people that you want to make sure never repeat those actions again.
And what is it that they suggest that we do instead?
Well, they say that everybody deserves to be counseled and given a second chance. That's what Francesca Hong says, the gubernatorial candidate for the Democratic nomination in Wisconsin. She's the leading candidate. They asked her, what about individuals who've committed rape and murder? And her response was, we need to counsel them so that they don't commit it again. And that's going to keep them from committing crime again. I mean, I think that basically the opposite is true. Yeah, real small chance. I mean, I grew up with the threat of capital punishment. All right, and I still remember I was terrified. I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I'd watch movies and they depict the person in the electric chair, or there was a Mission Impossible episode of the person being put into the gas chamber. I was terrified. I mean, I still remember waking up and just literally screaming in my sleep. I was terrified by that. I mean, did that keep me from committing murder on its own? No, but it didn't. It kind of also made me think sometime about the consequences. And if there's no consequences for your crime, then what stops somebody again? Take the worst crimes that exist, murder and rape. What stops someone from committing those crimes over and over if there's no consequences? I mean, this is like Nuttyville. We have the train left the tracks, and it's like driving down about a mile away from the tracks now to have some of these people. I mean, to say that we're going to nationalize major industries. We're going to control them. We're not going to have a Supreme Court. We're not going to have a Senate. We're just going to have a House of Representatives, and they're going to choose somebody. Look, as a town manager, that's great for municipalities. It can work. But the idea that we're just going to choose somebody and hire them to run this country is kind of scary. I mean, it really is. I mean, this is Nuttyville stuff. And yet, El Sayed won the election day before yesterday, and by a fairly sizable amount, by about 3%. over his opponent, and now he's going to be the Democratic nominee for Senate, and his crazy views about he's got these views about people of the Jewish faith. He wants to blame them for everything, and I think there is some value in talking about limiting our aid to Israel. I think sometimes we give them maybe too much aid. They're financially pretty capable. Why are we giving them aid? But when it comes to saying, that we want to wipe them out and wipe out people because of their religious views, I hope not. I mean, are you going to wipe me out because I'm Roman Catholic? It's crazy stuff. And it just keeps on flowing from these people. It doesn't stop. They accused Donald Trump of being a Nazi, and then you've got Graham Plattner, who had a Nazi tattoo on his chest. And, I mean, I knew as soon as I saw a picture of the tattoo what it was. And he said he didn't know what that tattoo was. Oh, bull. He knew exactly what he got. I mean, I'm sure the person doing the tattoo didn't say, hey, here's a funny-looking symbol. Let's put this on your chest. He knew what that tattoo was. And, again, to not disavow him, to not denounce these candidacies. John Fetterman's doing it, and now they're telling John Fetterman that he should leave the party. Leave the Democratic Party. And, again, your mayor's Anthony Copeland. Mine's Tom McDermott. I cannot imagine, McDermott's already spoken up about it, that he doesn't agree with some of these extreme agendas. I can't imagine Anthony Copeland sitting there saying, yeah, I'll support some guy with a Nazi tattoo, or I'll support somebody that wants to get rid of, all holidays and wants to get rid of, the idea of people putting a hard day's work in. I mean, Copeland's talked before about that he believes in a hard day's work, including for government employees. So that runs against his theories. I don't understand why the Democrats right now aren't revolting in large numbers, speaking up and saying, this is Nuttyville. We're not for it. We don't want you in our party, okay? And why the Republicans, for that matter, aren't speaking up and saying, we're tired of some of the nonsense on our side as well. There's some nonsense. Let's take some callers, and we're going to end the day. Good morning. You're on the air.
Tom, I know you're almost out of time, but I do got a quick question for you. Because you probably pay attention to stuff a lot more than I do. You were talking about that Janulius guy, how he's going to save everybody from Trump, right?
Yep.
Well, that seems to be the talking point. Do you know what the Democrats are going to run on the next two in between the midterms and the presidential election? Like, I haven't heard no talking points. Do they want to, lower taxes or what? I don't hear the talking points besides Trump.
Well, and that's a good question.
Trump.
That's a good question, because it seems the only talking points that I'm hearing are from the extremists who, Chuck Schumer keeps on saying we're a great big tent. But again, as Bill Maher pointed out the other day, a big tent for a circus, and you've got clowns. The only ones that are talking about an actual platform or agenda are these extremists who are saying we're going to get rid of the police, we're going to get rid of prisons, we're going to get rid of the border, we're going to get rid of the military, we're going to get rid of a hard day's work. We're just getting rid of everything. They're going to go in. They're going to get rid of Thanksgiving and Christmas and Valentine's Day. I mean, these people are totally nuts.
I don't hear no talking points. Well, I mean, are the talking points seriously going to be like free grocery stores and free bus rides for everybody? No, that don't do none for me.
Well, that's what the extremists on the left are saying. And my point is,
I don't hear it.
Right. Where is the comment from the average Democrat, from the Gillibrands out there? I'm not going to bring up Schumer because I just think he's totally lost. He should have been out of Congress years ago. But where is that agenda that I want to hear? I like Frank Mervan again to come on. He refuses, but I'd like Frank Mervan to come on and answer your question from your phone call and answer what his agenda is. I mean, why is it that we've spent all this time and energy and money talking about men playing in women's sports, for God's sakes? Everybody gets it. So why is it that the that this small little group of people get to make so much noise, but the news media and the Democrats, we've got to give them rights. I mean, you've got that nut job Walz in Minnesota who put tampons in men's bathrooms, and you've got him and a bunch of others testifying that men can get pregnant. Like, really?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I hear all this wacky stuff that you just said, but you're not. I don't think they're not giving anything to real people with the real issues.
No, not at all.
Those what you just said. Those aren't real issues. Those aren't real issues, man. Come on.
Real issues is do something about inflation, do something about the price of the price of oil. Okay, do something, or gasoline. Do something about crime. Crime has gone down, but we still have a long ways to go. Do things. I'd like to hear about those kinds of things. I'd like to hear about how they're going to fix our mess of a system when it comes to health care, because it is a mess. And the Democrats don't want to touch the Affordable Care Act, and the Republicans don't want to fix the Affordable Care Act because it's called Obamacare. And so you and I suffer every day and day in and day out when it comes to our health care. It's just crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy town, man, but I know you got to get going, but great show.
Hey, thanks so much. And you were the last caller, and look, folks, it's always great being here. It was kind of fun to have a break for a change, and I love callers as much as I do, but it's fun to just sit here and kind of talk too, and fun to talk with Lynette. And I will be back here next Wednesday morning, beginning at 6 a.m., and Randy Palmatier is going to be my guest. And don't forget, on the 19th, my guest will be Barb Regnitz. She'll be here at 7 a.m., and she's agreed to come in and take your calls. So she's the Republican nominee for U.S. Congress, 1st District. So she'll be on these airwaves, and we've got plenty of other guests coming in. So keep it tuned all day, all week to WJOB 1230 AM, 104.7 FM. We'll see you next Wednesday morning at 6 a.m. Bye-bye.
Planting a tree, installing a fence, whether your project is big or small, NIPSCO reminds you to know what's below and contact 811 at least 2 full business days before doing any digging so that utility companies can mark the location of their underground lines. Contacting 811 is free, and it's the law. Avoid possible penalties, costly repairs, or injuries. DIY or a pro, safety is in your hands. Every dig, every time.
For over 140 years, the Central Midwest Carpenters have built our communities